I'd like to call this public hearing to order. Thank you for coming out this evening. Our first item is to make sure we have a quorum, which we do. And again, welcome everybody. We have two meetings tonight. The first meeting is a public hearing for the lease and additional appropriations hearings. And then once that is concluded, then we will have our regular school board meeting. So we've called that the public hearing to order. The purpose for tonight is to hold a lease hearing, an additional appropriations hearing in conjunction with our proposed early learning center and central office construction project. After the presentation, there will be an opportunity for public comments, and so there are cards that people have filled out, but I understand that Jill is working on a piece of paper now because we've run out of cards. But at the appropriate time during the hearing, we'll ask each person that wants to speak to limit their comments to 3 minutes and limit the topic to the proposed project under consideration. Okay, notices for this public hearing, for the lease hearing and additional appropriation hearings, were published legally as required June 8th, 2020 in the Hamilton County Reporter, and also then on June 10th, 2020 in the Noblesville Times. All right, pursuant with Indiana Code 20-47-3, before a school corporation may enter into a lease agreement with a nonprofit building corporation, the school corporation must conduct a hearing regarding the execution of the proposed lease and whether the rental to be paid to the lesser building corporation under the proposed lease is fair and reasonable rental for the proposed improvements. Okay, that's a mouthful. Before the school corporation can appropriate any dollars it directly receives as bond proceeds, it must conduct a hearing on those proceeds for the additional appropriation of those funds. Okay, so I will begin with an overview by Dr. Gray of the project.
Good evening. So just a little bit of background about our project for the Early Learning Center and Central Office. So back in 2016-17, if you recall, we had an operating referendum that was renewed in the fall of 2016, and immediately after that, we began to have conversations about some of the needs of our school district. So we had a demographic study done, we had had a comprehensive facility study done, and so we were really trying to plan for the growth in enrollment that not only was already here, but that was also projected through 2027. And so through those focus groups, we talked about what are some of the great things that we're doing as a school district and what are some of those needs that we may have as we plan for the future. And it was really through those conversations that we made a decision that when we went to the capital referendum that those dollars were going to be utilized for the expansions and renovations at the intermediate, the middle, and the high school, and then the additional dollars would be allocated toward the facility study that had been done. Because we made that decision, what that allowed us to do was really think about whether we really needed to have a brand new elementary school in the future or not. Because what we really learned from our demographic study was that the trends in enrollment were primarily through grades 5 through 12 versus our elementary schools. And so we began to put together a long-term plan for the projects in the school district, and many of you may have been familiar with a presentation that we have been doing. We worked together with the board to create our Growing the Rockway presentation, and what that does is it lays out for the next 5 years not only the projects that will be necessary for the school district, but it also lays out how this will impact our debt structure, our tax rate over the next several years. What this project will also do for us is, right now we currently use about 21 elementary classrooms for early learning programs. Now keep in mind, those are not taxpayer supported programs, those are fee-based programs, which primarily are taken advantage of by our teachers and our staff because they're for their children. We would really like the opportunity to be able, in this new construction facility down the road, to be able to offer opportunities for early learning, perhaps for children who may not otherwise have those opportunities for learning. So with this project, also in addition, we currently are leasing space for our central office, which is about $120,000 annually. So in being fiscally responsible and thinking about building an early learning center and also a central office at $19 million without needing additional staffing, in comparison to building a new elementary school, and perhaps even we could be on some of our own land, or if we would need to purchase land, but a new elementary school being roughly around $30 million, and then additional staffing. So in taking those things into consideration, and then also really taking into consideration, we wanted to evaluate the location. So the location of the project, we as a board sat down and looked at what are the current pieces of land that we own as a school district, and then what might be some properties that we might want to invest in as a school district. In fact, we had a purchase agreement on some property thinking that that might be a better location, and as it turned out, going through our due diligence process, we realized that the monies that would have been invested in just infrastructure alone would have taken away from the overall cost and investment in the project. Therefore, we've made the decision to move the project to Monon Trail Elementary School property, where we do own 10 acres, and that will also then fit into our long-term plan for growing the Rockway.
Thank you, Dr. Gray. Now we'll hear from Mr. Eric Long, who is from Ice Miller, to explain how lease financing works.
Test the microphone here. Very well. It's a pleasure to be before the board administration once again this evening. Again, I'm Eric Long with the law firm of Ice Miller, who serves as bond counsel to the school corporation. Just as a refresher, the reason that we're having a lease hearing this evening is because the lease financing structure is the mechanism for which the bonds will be issued. And just as kind of a refresher, when our great state was founded 200 years ago, there was a formulaic limit put in for the amount of direct debt that any taxing unit can issue. As our state has evolved over the course of 200 years, state law has since evolved, and the General Assembly saw fit to allow additional funding mechanisms and structures for all taxing units, including school corporations, to be able to authorize and issue bonds for their projects. And so the lease rental mechanism, the lease financing mechanism, is one that's specifically granted to school corporations by state law. And under that structure, a building corporation, in fact, is the issuer of the bonds as opposed to the school corporation. And according to those statutory provisions, the building corporation is required to own the land where the project is going to be constructed. And then through this lease financing structure, they then lease it back to the school corporation for the life of the bond issue, hence the lease hearing.
All right, thank you so much. Now we'll hear from Mr. Tom Michael on the financing of the project and the tax rate.
Yep. So just wanted to go over a couple of meetings we've already had. So February 11th, we had our first kind of hearing and resolutions on this meeting. We had the project resolution and the preliminary determination resolution at that time. At that time, we said the total project cost to be $19 million and an interest rate not to exceed 5%. Also, based on our current projections, that's basically $19 million project is roughly 5.8 cents on our tax rate. However, with everything that's going on and the debt falling off, we do expect our tax rate to continue to drop as it has the past several years. Actually, in 2020, we have the lowest total tax rate that we've had since 2011. So we've had the lowest tax rates in the last 9 years, and then also 2020 compared to 2019, our levy is actually lower than last year as well. So our tax rate's going down, and our levy actually went down last year as well, if we look at those areas. Then at our April 23rd board meeting, we approved the formula lease. So the structure that Eric just described, as well as the reauthorization of the building corporation. We've utilized the same building corporation, the same members that we've utilized for the last several projects. And the goal is actually to eventually get everything on one. That way we have one specific body to work with as we work through these items. So just wanted to discuss, as Dr. Gray said, this is going along with our Growing Rockway plan. As we look in the future, and those who have seen the Growing Rockway plan, there are other future projects that have been discussed in that plan. So when we discuss that the tax rate is going to continue to decrease, that is with all those projects already factored in as well. So as we look to the future, our tax rate will still continue to go down even with these projects coming on board. And it's actually going to continue dropping rather rapidly in the next several years as we continue to manage the rate going down.
Okay, thank you so much. All right, I'll entertain a motion to open the public the hearing for public comment? Okay, seconded? Okay, thank you. Okay, I do have 3 comment cards, so I'll begin with those, and then Jill can bring me more as we have more. Okay, Erica Strong.
Check and see. Just a quick comment. I know that the plan is to move forward with this project, but it seems like with what's going on with COVID, that all plans, vacation plans, wedding plans, lots of things have been interrupted. And I wonder if it makes sense to maybe pull back and wait some time. We don't know what school is going to look like this year, and we really don't know what it's going to look like going forward. And I know that there have been children who have withdrawn from Westfield, Washington schools to go to Sheridan because they want a smaller school experience. I know we've got kids who are going to stay home and do online schooling through Westfield, Washington schools. I know that we've got other children who are going to stay home and do a more traditional homeschooling or Indiana online and stuff like that. And then we've got this demographic study that says that in 2027, our student population is going to level off and I think begin to decrease. So I worry sometimes that we're going to build too much and then not have the people or programs to fill it. So that was my comments. Thank you. Maybe just we could speak to that.
Okay, Mr. Dalton?
My name is Burr Dalton, 3744 Slippery Rock. I want to thank President Picker and the board, Dr. Gray. I want to first talk about the notice. We all talk about what's illegal, but a 2-inch ad buried in the Noblesville and the Hamilton Reporter is not good notice. Not when we send out email blasts and the minute the snow blows. So I disrespectfully approve this project has been properly noticed and discussed. So the biggest thing I see in this league is $66 million. Okay? So based on a $19 million project, that's 17% interest that is being made on that lease. That's crazy. And we always hear the storyline, debt's dropping off. Well, good, let it drop off and quit borrowing money. So, I'm asking for 3 things. You stop all discussion and project movement on this, till 3 things. We advertise it again specifically so everybody can come in here with more detailed explanation. B, we don't do anything until after the budget hearings of August and September. And quite frankly, we ought to wait till a new school board is seated next January. We have to cut out the stress. We need to take steps now in anticipation of state and federal cuts in 2021, 2023. While eliminating the need of an operating recommend. I hear you on tax rate. Well, you know what? AV is way up, as were our property tax bills that we all paid last week. Stop spending, cut non-classroom money spending, and get back to basic control.
I have a lot of the same concern that Mr. Dalton just talked about, that the number was failed to be mentioned, that over time this is going to cost $66 million. And yet, as a mom of 6 kids in Westfield schools, I have seen budget cuts in my kids' classrooms that, in my opinion, hurt their education experience. That is unneeded, it is irresponsible, and should not be happening at all. I also believe in being a team player here in Westfield because that's what Westfield is all about. And I do not believe for 1 second this is being a team player. When you're talking about early literacy and early learning, and you look around at all of our community that support early learning, where we get to take our kids to and have the experience in the community, why then does Westfield need to spend money on this as well? We clearly have enough in the community. And what have we even talked about those individual corporations that are in these small churches and on every corner that do the early learning for our kids? What happens to them? They decrease in numbers, their program falls out. I don't think this is fair one bit to sit here and say, let's build an admin building. When COVID-19 is happening, this absolutely should be put on hold. We don't know what it's going to look like in a month from now, 3 months from now, a year from now. I am along with Mr. Dalton in saying this needs to be put on hold, that we need to wait to see what school looks like in the future, especially with the global pandemic going on right now. And I also think that the numbers need to be honestly represented, that yes, interest rate might be low, but that's a lot of money that the interest rate's on, and to have the number be 66 million, that seems a little irresponsible to me and not being a team player in Westfield at all whatsoever.
Thank you, everybody, for speaking. I'll entertain a motion to close the hearing for public comment.
So moved.
Do I have a second?
Second.
All right, thank you. All right, I will also entertain a motion to close the Early Learning Center Central Office lease and additional appropriations hearing. Thank you. Second? Thank you. All right. Okay, that was closing the public hearing. Okay, sorry. Now we will move to our regularly scheduled school board meeting. And that, in a moment, I will call that meeting to order. We do still have a quorum, and again, thank you for coming out this evening. We always begin our meetings with a moment of silence and the Pledge of Allegiance, if you'd like to join me.
To the flag of the United States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay. Again, thank you for coming out this evening. Our agenda this evening is organized into 3 sections. We have a superintendent's report. The second section is that we have agenda items and report outs. And then the third section is the public comment opportunity. I would like to acknowledge that last month we did rearrange the order of the agenda to allow for the public comment as a courtesy for the crowd that was there. It was not our intent to hide any content of the meeting. As announced, everybody was welcome to stay for the entire meeting. As a reminder, school board meetings are filmed each and every month and have been for several years. And once they are filmed, we post them for the public on our Westfield, Washington website. So this evening, we do have a number of items to review and will maintain the normal agenda of welcoming public comments in the last section of the meeting. If you're interested in speaking, I know people filled out comment cards, so thank you. And then the board is committed to staying this evening as long as necessary to give everybody interested a chance to speak. So again, welcome, and we will start with our superintendent's report.
Okay, something that we love to do each month at our school board meetings is to recognize the great work that is happening in our schools. And so tonight, I'd like to introduce Mr. Andy Hilton, our principal at Cary Ridge Elementary School, and our assistant principal, Mrs. Buzan. Turn it over to you.
Hello, my name is Andy Hilton, like Dr. Gray said. I'm a principal at Cary Ridge Elementary, and this is Tiffany Museum. We want to thank the board for allowing us to come in today. Each year we do try to present on something that we're proud of in the school and that our teachers and our kids have been working on a lot. But this year we thought there's a lot going on with COVID, and how are we going to keep schools open? So the administration staff, some teachers, some parents, and school board has been working on a Return of the Rocks plan. And what we did is take the plan once it was created, and then how's that going to work at Cary Ridge? So the first thing, that's...
Good evening, everyone. So on our first slide, we are going to talk about entry into the building and dismissal. So on a typical Cary Ridge morning, you will see the buses pull in and you will see the children dismissed and a large gaggle. And this year, we're going to do things very differently. So when students arrive, we will dismiss the students by grade level. And every grade level will go into a very specific entry into the building. And then we will also dismiss students the exact same way. So we try to minimize the amount of students that are in the hallway together at the same time. So our bus riders, they're going to come in, they'll have masks on, just as our car riders will. What we've done is we've already looked at our car rider line because we anticipate that we're going to have some more parents dropping kids off. So we have already lengthened that car line to anticipate for those students who are going to be coming in cars. And we also have a larger space set aside for those students when they come in to wait until the bell rings.
And our goal is to keep school open as long as possible. So we know that we have to social distance and wear a mask. And the next slide is if somebody does test positive or if they have symptoms, we have a separate health clinic. So we're not sending kids that might have a headache who could possibly have COVID into a nurse's office where we have somebody checking blood sugar or something like that. So we want to isolate them. We want to make sure that we're communicating with the parents. There is an if-then chart that has been created. So if a student, has a headache and we call the parents and send home, there's certain things we can do. Go to a health provider, a certain amount of time, whether we give them, if you are testing positive, you have to have the 2 weeks, things like that. So there is an if-then chart that we have that will help with all that. We are also going to work with parents as much as we can to try to make sure that they are aware of this information, because we don't want anything, just because my child has a sore throat, they have to stay home for 2 weeks. That can be a little overwhelming because at an elementary school, we typically have a lot of headaches and sore throats, and we want to make sure that we're communicating, and then what steps we have to do once a child does have a sore throat or a fever. So that will all be going out to parents.
Thank you. On our next slide, we're going to talk a little bit about what things are going to look like in the classroom. The cafeteria. So one of the things that we first talked about when we were thinking about coming back to school is the cafeteria. There's so many kids in there at one time. So what we've decided to do, our building, Cary Ridge, is designed almost exactly the same as this one. We're going to turn this NPR into an additional cafeteria space. So we can then spread the children out as much as possible at tables and between seats. We've also scheduled our lunches a little bit differently. So we're going to have 15 minutes between when grade levels eat. So we always try in between, due to allergies and contents on the table, to really clean the tables before a new grade level comes in. So this year we're hoping that with the 15 minutes in between, we'll have extra staff in the cafeteria and more time to really go through and disinfect the tables and seats if necessary. We also looked at our traffic flow. So in a building of over 600 children, which Cary Ridge has, we have people going everywhere at all different times, going to recess, going to lunch, going to specials. So we looked at when students were leaving lunch, going to recess, going to specials, and we adjusted all the traffic flow so that students should not be running into each other at different grade levels. So if you're going to lunch, you should not be running into a different grade level that's heading out to recess and so forth.
And then on the final slide, we're looking at the classroom. So in a typical classroom, let's say third grade, we have 25 students, social distancing is 6 feet away. And that is difficult to do with, 25 kids, desks, tables, and all that. So we are working on how we can get the kids outside some as well. So if we can do a lesson outside instead of inside, that way it's going to be a struggle for kids to wear a mask all day. And we want to work with them to try to relieve that. But we have to make sure that we're doing it in a safe way. Not only do we want to avoid the spread, but we also have some students with some health concerns that we want to protect as well. So as long as we can do it safely, we're going to do what we can to allow kids to take off masks. When they're in the classroom, we're going to be wearing a mask. And if a teacher feels that they can social distance in their class, which will be tough, they can decide they can take their mask off. But other than that, we are going to spread out the chairs, the tables, as far as we can, get the kids a lot of space, and just try to avoid as much contact. So if somebody does get sick, then that way their exposure for the other students is not as much. So it's a moving scale of what's accepted and what they're telling us to do, but we're going to try and keep kids as safe as possible. So thank you. The board had any? Oh, one other thing, also with specials, if you're an art teacher, you see, every grade. So one teacher from 4th grade, then one teacher from 3rd grade. And then in a single week, you'll have 600 kids through your classroom. So we're trying to provide more time in there for cleaning. And we're also looking at changing the schedule. And maybe if we have, instead of a teacher doing all 5 specials this week, we only do art this week. Next week, they do music. We're still trying to figure out how that looks with PE to get kids moving and how we can add some of that into the day. But then that way, there's only 125 kids through the art room instead of 600 in a single week. So we thank you for your time. Board, do we have any questions? Thank you.
Thank you. And I'm going to piggyback a little bit off of what Mr. Hilton and Mrs. Buzan shared, because I'm very proud of the work that our committees have been doing, and I think as they alluded to, our plans are very flexible and we must be very nimble because sometimes information is coming to us almost on a daily basis and we need to be able to make adjustments. So what I did want to share, based on the current plan that we had shared out with our most recent plan that we've shared with our families, we had put out a survey. We wanted to use this survey information based on the current plan to gather some feedback about what we might be looking at in terms of instruction. And then what I can also share is the 3 committees that are working are continuing to work at our safety, our operations, and then also our teaching and learning committees. And then each week, I know that I'm in constant contact with the Hamilton County superintendents, and then also we meet with our principals and then also our Teachers Association leadership. And we had a very productive meeting again today where we are looking at some additional refinements to our plan. So I'll share currently where we are, and then you may be getting some updates about our plan that we think will also be very helpful to keep our students safe and our staff safe and healthy. So with the current survey that we had put out, we were asking, with that plan, will children be returning to school in August? And so as of today, we have 8,553 students enrolled, and so 4,501 responses, and so 88% reported returning to school, and then virtually about 11% or 504 students, and then just 1% that would not be enrolled in Westfield schools. And then we asked, will your child plan to ride the bus this year? And so basically with that question, we had 71.1% of our families say that yes, they plan to ride the bus this year, and 29% that said that they would not. And then we also asked, would they ride the bus beginning at the very start of the school year, and 67% said that they would, of the students who said they were riding. So this information is a starting point for the plan that we currently have in place. And then, as I mentioned, we're continuing to update our plans because some of the things that we really want to take into consideration is current updates, looking at trends, in positive COVID cases. We also want to minimize, if at all possible, the number of students in a classroom or in large spaces, so whether that's the cafeteria or in hallways. And then also, again, we understand that there are differing opinions about the use of masks or not wearing masks, and so we also know that face-to-face learning is the most important thing for our children, and we want to be able to maximize that time. So you'll be hearing more about updates for our plan. And then also this evening, we have Eli with us from the Skillman Corporation, and he's going to give us an update on our construction project.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen of the board. I'm Eli with the Skillman Corporation. Happy to give another construction update. Working on probably 30 months now of this. At Westfield High School, we are reaching the final stretch. We have another 5 months of construction left. We'll be completing the project by the end of the 2020 year. I have several areas between over. Start the academic year here in August. And the Westfield Natatorium project, we're a little over 2/3 of the way done. That project is on schedule and will be turned over in a year as well. Progress at Westfield High School. We'll start with the exterior work. So as you recall, we presented this when we first started the projects a little over 2 years ago. The final 2 phases of the site work, phase 1 and phase 3, will be turned over this summer. So that includes all the sidewalks, curbs, parking areas. You see a lot of activity if you drive by the school right now, a lot of heavy equipment. Yes, it will be put back together as long as Mother Nature cooperates with us. And as a reminder, weather is the responsibility of the board. Our phasing plan, working actively in several areas, the existing band room, the commons area, the FACS, culinary arts lab, science classrooms, regular classrooms, and then also the guidance and admin areas that we're turning over later this month. The second floor, continuing with the core classrooms in each wing, and also the science classrooms there in the light green. Progress to date, starting with our new addition on the south side of the building. We've completed all of the soil stabilization, so we'll have a nice long-term durable parking lots. You'll see a lot of the sidewalks are poured. Some of the pictures we have here are a little bit over a week old, so there's a lot of progress being made. The exterior of the building is fairly complete. We're down to finishing touches, installing a few parts and pieces that didn't quite fit when they showed up, and then caulking and cleaning. Inside the addition, putting the finishes in, we are painting, completing the flooring, carpet tile, the luxury vinyl tile, LVT, lights are installed, all the casework's installed, doors and hardware installed, and we're pretty well final cleaned out in the new addition. The east side of the addition lagged a little bit behind the west side. As you recall, we had some underground obstructions we had to build around, so that caused a little delay, a little lag on the east addition, but that is tracking quite nicely, about 2 weeks behind the west addition. Same sort of items we completed, the flooring, the terrazzo, including final cleaning. Do have some great pictures of the final products that we'll share later in the presentation. This is looking to the east. Like I said, the site photos are about a little over a week old, so a lot of progress has been made since they've been taken. Quite a few sidewalks and curbs were in place, and we'll be ready for paving here in about a week and a half. Again, with the site work, this is on the east side of the building. Pretty well ready for stone and paving. This kind of tells the story of our new addition. It's labeled sidewalks, but you see this, the building, I think looks great, matches the existing building very nicely. I think the architect did a nice job on that. West addition, some of the interior spaces there, the storefronts in. More progress being made on the exterior of the building. The production lab, we're really excited to see how this turned out. I think it'd be a good addition for the trades at Westfield High School. The existing, or the new addition band area, and the locker storage you see there for band equipment, and there's a large band storage room in the back and the foreground there. All the new kitchen equipment and the new addition. Sure, very pressing areas are the guidance and admin areas. Those are going to be turned over here in this month, this July. I know there's a lot of concern about those areas being ready for school since they'll be heavily utilized. But yes, they will be turned over. Progress to date inside the existing school. So first we focus on the addition. Now we're going to focus on the interior of the existing school. We've continued demolition, continued tie-ins to the new addition. Those are pretty difficult, the structure of the building. The admin area, you see in progress, we were framing, drywall. We finished the drywall in next week and a half, 2 weeks, and start painting certain areas and other finishes. The green wing cord renovations. We've completed demo. We've started the MEP rough-in. Again, that's the mechanical, electrical, plumbing, and fire protection rough-in. So that's overhead, all the mechanical piping that's above the ceiling you don't see, and all the in-wall rough-ins. That's all that's started. The gold wing core renovations in a similar situation. It's a little further along. We've started the wall framing, and those are MEP rough-ins. The fax lab is one of the areas we're turning over in the summer. I know it's critical to get that turned over, so we have at least one of the two areas. We have the culinary arts lab that is continuing through in the academic year, not over the fall break. Fax lab renovations, we finished the demolition, completed all the new wall framing, continued the MEP rough-in, which is substantial in these areas. As you can guess, all those ovens, sinks, dishwashers take a lot of mechanical, electrical rough-ins. Science classrooms, we've completed those areas primarily as far as the demolition and the drywall and all the finishes. The bistro kitchenette area, we completed demolition, started the MEP underslab plumbing, and also the overhead MEP rough-ins, and started installation of the CMU walls. Once those are complete, a lot of the heavy construction, heavy messes will be out of the building. Guidance renovations, again, turning over with the admin area. We're pretty much just down to the final thing, but the final touches on there. Some of the progress we've made in the distant band area. Admin suite, as you can see, we're done with drywall finishing, the paint, storefronts are in. The green wing core renovations, almost complete. Continue with underslab rough-ins and overhead rough-ins. Same for the gold wing core renovations. Progress in the FACS lab, all the metal stud walls are framed, and we're working to complete the mechanical electrical rough-ins in the walls above the ceiling. The Eastern kitchen area, we've completed all the demo. The block work is done, we're down to the reframing and back to the drywall. Plan work for the next 30 days. We will complete all the site work on the phase 1, that's the south side, new addition. Paving, it's a big milestone for the exterior work. Same for the east side of the building, including the curbs and sidewalks, and pave as well. On the inside of the building, big milestone, we're looking to get the certificate of occupancy from the city of Westfield, and then finish our punch list of product in order for the school to move in and occupy those spaces for this next school year. On the interior side, again, down to punch list and final cleaning. On the east side of the building, we did have some existing rooms that were of high importance, so we really stressed those. Those lists were provided from the administration for Westfield, the high school. And so we're listed there, and those are the areas that we're really pushing to make sure that they're 100% turned over and ready to go as soon as possible. Admin and guidance area, down to the finishes. I know it looks pretty rough right now, but once the drywall is finished and the paint and flooring go in, it'll come together really quickly. Those are trays that do go quick. What takes the longest is always the demo, metal stud, and drywall work, and mechanical electrical rough-ins. So do bear with us. It comes together last minute usually, and that's again how it's going to work out with the admin guidance area. We're trying to fit quite a bit into the summer months. Next 30 days, still continuing with the green and gold wing renovations. We'll complete all the framing, all the MEP work. We'll start the ceilings and start the drywall finishes. Same thing for the Shamrock Hall classroom renovations and the culinary arts area. We'll start the finishes there as well. New cafe and storage. We'll have all the underslab MP work completed. I mentioned completing the masonry, that's a major highlight for us, as well for the school. Keep a lot of the dirt out of the building and minimize the noise and disturbances to the students. And obviously some of the finishing will continue in those areas. An update on our project contingency utilization. Westfield Media School finished quite a bit, with quite a bit of contingency left. Westfield Middle School, we took the opportunity to use a lot of contingency to address a lot of the existing maintenance items that were not part of the project, and that we went ahead and took care of while we were there with the trades that were necessary to do that work, based on economies of scale. And since we had the funds to do so, we did that. Westfield High School, we're tracking about a little over 2/3. We have sufficient funds to do the project, and again, that's similar comment as Westfield Middle School. There's some unforeseen issues we've addressed that are outside the public scope, and also some value adds that we're able to implement and move to the project since we did have some contingency at the high school. The Westfield Natatorium. Progress there, about a little over 2/3 of the way through the project. Again, that turns over in December of this year. All the site work is complete. All the site utilities are in. Inside the building, we've completed a lot of the mechanical electrical work, completed interior CMU walls, all the structures up. The roof is currently under construction, and so that'll be our next major construction milestone being weather tight. Once the roof's on, we'll be able to protect the building finishes from any sort of water damage and also condition the building so we can continue finishes inside. Some photos of the mechanical ductwork and the electrical conduit overhead. Interior CMU walls, this looks to be in mechanical spaces. Full concrete, that'll be a major milestone we're going to complete this month. The full tank itself will be poured. Some aerial photographs we've got here of the progress. As you see, the building's pretty well taken shape. All the walls are up. The roof is going on now. That should be complete in the next 2 weeks or so. The roof. Next 30 days, we will complete the underground utilities, the storm sewer and the water connections. The underslab MEP work inside the building itself will be completed. We'll complete all the curbs and walks outside the building, and then we'll start the stone for the asphalt inside base. Inside the building, mechanical work overhead will be completed. All the rooftop equipment will be set. All of the roofing will be down to detail, which means the coping, the trim pieces of the roof, and finally starting the paint. So I would say in the next month, month and a half, it'll really start looking like that athletic center. Full board and just need a little bit of water. We're proud to say that we've used now the contingency, so zero utilization, and we'll look to return those funds as best we can. That concludes today's update. Thank you.
Thanks so much. Yes.
Could you go over just a little bit about the use of the contingency money, maybe hit on like the top 2 or 3 things we're building? I think it'd be of interest to folks here, because that might be the first time people realize that. And then secondarily, you or Joe, could you share maybe the top 3 things that are planned to be done with the contingency funds that remain?
I'd be happy to. Several items that we use the contingency funds to repair for some deferred maintenance items, particularly at Westfield Middle School. We took care of some domestic water issues where there was cross connections between different systems. There was issues with getting hot water in certain areas of the building, cold water elsewhere. So we went through and added pumps, replaced certain valves that weren't holding, those types of items. There was quite a few issues with the fire suppression system and the fire alarm system at the middle school. We since have flushed those out. We had a substantial number of fire alarm issues that cause false fire alarms. So we've gone through and did an audit, inspected the fire suppression system, installed check valves to make sure that the system shouldn't do that in the future. We took the opportunity to upgrade some of the fire alarm parts and pieces that were either end of life or needed maintenance and replace those. The high school, we had some electrical issues that we addressed as well. PA system and some of the general power that we traced back to the panels and refed those so they wouldn't cause an issue on the road as far as maintenance. I'd say those are probably the highlights that we did at the schools. And we'll be happy to have a more complete list, which I believe we've scheduled that out later, so. Joe, would you like to address that?
Joe,
The question was, with the remaining contingency money, how would we prioritize those funds to do more preventative maintenance on the buildings? A few years ago, the Skillman Corporation put together a kind of a service agreement, if you will, on repairs, and it was based on chronologically the life of HVAC, desk, carpet, roofs, things of that nature. Brian Kelly, Brian Tomichael, myself, Victor, and Eli, 2 years ago, went around to each of the buildings and looked at what the replacement plan was, and they were set up on a 5, 10, 15, and 20-year cycle. So we went through and looked at what the estimation was in regards to the replacement of those items, and then put that on a priority list. Because some of them, like the carpet at Maple Glen, would be up for replacement, about $350,000. But the quality of carpet that was put in the building and the type of cleaning apparatus that they use, the carpet's in really good shape, and it would be a waste to replace that at this particular time. So taking a look from a priority standpoint, what does actually need to be replaced? And what we've been doing, we replaced 2 roofs and put carpet in 2 elementary buildings over a year ago. And the goal was to wait till our construction projects were done and make sure that nothing came up that we did not see where it was going to be something that really jumped into our contingency plan. So once that time is done, going back through the Skillman report, reprioritizing the items that we may need to replace from a safety standpoint, first and foremost, and then HVAC, LED lights, things of that nature. And then we would want to sit down with our building principals to find out their thoughts and suggestions, and then bring that to the board. So hopefully in the next probably 3 to 6 months, we'll go back over that plan, reprioritize those items, have a dollar amount listed beside them, and then present that to the board. Any other questions, guys? Super, thank you very much.
Thank you, yeah.
Thank you, Rebecca, for clarifying. Any other questions? Okay, we will move on to the consent agenda, and I'll entertain a motion.
I'll make a motion to approve the consent agenda as presented.
Alrighty, second?
I'll second.
Alright, thank you. All those in, are there any comments, sorry? Any comments or discussion? Okay, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion carries. All right, we have personnel, Mr. Baldwin.
Good evening, everybody. You'll see your updates board in red, the additions to our personnel report. Just some notes in the personnel report. You'll see the majority of the report is work done by our teachers this summer, so we still appreciate, obviously, all the work that our teachers continue to do under all the circumstances that we're dealing with. We appreciate all the curriculum work, kindergarten screening, those things that are taking place to get ready for the school year coming up. Also, it's normal this time to add non-certificated staff. You'll notice that we have added a couple bus drivers, which is really good, so we continue to seek bus drivers, but we have added some. And a normal time to add our instructional assistants, which we appreciate. Also, we have we continue to grow, so we are getting more students. So you will see teaching positions in certain pockets and areas. We continue to add and grow students. So you'll see new teachers in the next 2 as well. We'll continue to watch some more grade levels as they grow over the next few weeks before the school year starts. So with any questions this evening, I just ask that you approve personnel as presented.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Baldwin. I'll entertain a motion.
So moved.
All right, second? Any additional discussion? All right, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion carries. Mr. Baldwin again.
Yes, policies. I bring some policies to you this evening for our first reading. No action this evening. Any of these policies between now and the next board meeting, feel free to reach out with any suggestions or items you'd like to add or delete from our current policies or any questions you might have. Tonight, we bring some are both new policies for the district and updated policies based on law at the last legislative session. So working with our CCHA school attorneys, just making sure we're always updated with our policies to match what the law is. So I bring to you tonight for first reading the CDL drug testing policy, standard of care and supervision of students, eligible students, legal settlement, student attendance, communicable diseases, administration of medication, homeless children, test security for statewide assessments, and a program for students with disabilities. So again, first reading, no action. Feel free to reach out in the next few weeks before our next board meeting with any information you'd like to share.
Thanks so much. All right. Dr. Monolone, ratifying the Shamrock Pond easement agreement.
Yes, thank you very much. And we sold the land out by Shamrock Springs years ago, and we had a contract, and we needed to addend that contract in regards to now having more specific language on what the responsibilities would be of the owner of the project and what their obligation was and is going forward. There will be a spectacular outdoor science lab that Mr. Hedges, the principal at Shamrock Springs, is incredibly proud of. He and his staff and community folks from the Shamrock area have been working on this project along with the developers and architects and local folks to make this dream come true. They are digging dirt as we speak and building the pond. And so we believe that we have all of the language exactly where it needs to be and the obligations met that Mr. Hedges and myself talked to you about in an executive session about a month ago. And our representatives have taken care of all of the specifics. And so we just request from an administration standpoint that the board approve and ratify the easement at Shamrock Springs Elementary.
Thank you. All right, I'd like to entertain a motion to ratify the Shamrock Pond easement agreement.
So moved.
Do I have a second?
Second.
All right, thank you. Any additional discussion?
Thanks to Joe and crew for putting together with the comments we had and getting that wrapped up.
All right, thank you so much. All righty. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion carries. All right. Brooke Watkins.
Good evening. I have two grants to bring to you this evening. The first one is the Project Lead the Way training grant. And for all of our courses that we offer through Project Lead the Way, they do require teacher training. And every year we are eligible for one grant per training area. So this year we had a need in engineering and biomedical sciences due to some resignation in staff, as well as growth in our biomedical sciences programs. We had a need for 4 people to be trained, and Project Lead the Way graciously agreed to all 4 grants instead of just 2 this year. So we are requesting that the board approves the Project Lead the Way grant of 4 grants and $2,500 each for a total of $10,000.
Okay, thank you. All right, I will entertain a motion. Do we have a second? All right, thank you. All right, any additional discussion? All right. We always appreciate getting more money. Thank you, Brooke. All right, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion carries. All right, Brooke again.
Yep, and the second grant I have tonight is our formative assessment grant, which is an Indiana Department of Education grant that's provided to schools across the state. So this funds our NWEA testing for students all students K through 8, and then some students in 9 and 10. It also funds our iReady Math Diagnostic for students in grades K through 6. So Lynn Schemmel, our district test coordinator, manages this grant. We really appreciate the work that she does on this grant. She also serves on the Department of Education's Formative Assessment Grant Committee to ensure certain programs, the programs that they approve, which includes both iReady and NWEA, are aligned to our Indiana academic standards. So this year, our grant amount is $86,376. And we just recommend that the board also approves this for the 2021 school year.
Great, thank you so much. All right, I'll entertain a motion.
I'll move to approve the formative assessment grant as presented.
Thank you. Second? All righty. Any additional discussion or questions? All right. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. All right, motion carries. All right, Carrie all day. There she is.
Hello. We have some more grants. Today we have the Title IV Innovation Grant. This, like a lot of the grants, sometimes we just get an allocation. This grant was a competitive grant. So school districts across the state applied and we were awarded this grant. The intent of this grant is to directly increase students' social and emotional wellness through innovative programming emphasizing on well-rounded educational opportunities. We have several goals of this grant, and one is to provide some professional development resources for 7th and 8th grade wellness teachers, which then they will implement the Learning to Breathe curriculum to increase students' ability to identify and regulate emotions. And this will happen for all 7th and 8th graders through their wellness class. In addition, we will provide resources to build peer-to-peer relationships for elementary students in a pilot program that will occur right here at Washington Woods. And then finally, to provide resources for targeted professional development for building level SEL, MTSS, and equity teams. This grant, sorry, I have mask issues, was for $40,000. And we do want to thank Kyle Miller for really taking the lead on this grant. The second competitive grant was a 2020 Project Aware grant. You might have seen that DOE just did a release of information to share the schools that received this grant, and we were one of them. This grant will enhance the social, emotional, and mental health awareness and supports for students. Through this grant, we will focus on professional development opportunities for district leadership and district staff in the area of diversity, equity, and inclusion. We will also focus on building emotional identification and regulation skills in our middle school students. And we want to initiate a pilot mental health service scholarship program for uninsured, underinsured, or economically disadvantaged students. This grant was for $58,000, and again, this was also a competitive grant. So tonight we are asking the Board of Education to approve the 2020 Title IV Innovation Grant and the 2020 Project Aware Grant as presented.
Thank you so much. I'll entertain a motion.
I'll move to approve the 2020 Title IV Innovation Grant and Project Aware grants as presented.
Thank you, Dwayne. Do I have a second? All righty. Any additional discussion or questions? Okay. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion carries. Thank you.
And one more grant.
Yes.
So we have the 2020 CARES Act, and this is the Corona Aid Relief and Economic Security Act. And this was an allocation that was provided to Westfield Washington schools, and it was based on the Title I formula. And so, even though it's based on the Title I formula, it's a little different. It can be utilized by it can benefit all of our schools, not just our Title I schools. And so with this grant, it's really supposed to help with needs that were due to COVID. And so we have 3 broad areas that we will be focusing on, or I should say we have focused on. One was technology preparedness, And this we use funds to help provide 150 hotspots that we provided to families and some staff members that were in need, either to not having broadband or living in a rural area that didn't get broadband. And we also had 6 months of internet access for those hotspots. Another piece was the additional feeding that we did. As we all know, due to COVID-19, we adjusted some feeding opportunities for students. And through this, some of it was reimbursable, but some of it, because of where we're at and with free and reduced, not all of it was reimbursable. So as of June 25th, we served 27,882 meals, which equated to around, no, I'm sorry, I apologize for that. As of June 25th, we served 82,680 meals, but we're getting reimbursed for around about 28,000, which equates to right around $44,000. So we're using some of that money to help the ones that were not reimbursable. A third area of this grant is for some summer learning. Each year, the high school works with the Indiana Online Academy to provide summer school. That some of it is reimbursable by the state, but not all of it is. Due to COVID, the numbers were higher, and each year the state has a pot of money that is for reimbursable and it's split up depending on the schools that participate. This year, many more schools are participating due to COVID, and so our expenses are higher, so we're using some of this funds also for that. In addition, there is an equitable share portion for our non-public schools, and St. Maria Goretti decided to opt into that opportunity, and they're buying a couple laptops with their funds. So our total funding was $164,922.12. And of that, $1,336.18 went to St. Maria Goretti. So we are asking the board to approve the 2020 CARES grant as presented.
Thank you, Karen. I will entertain a motion.
I'll make a motion to approve the CARES grant as presented.
Thank you. How about a second? All right. Thank you. Any additional discussion? That was a lot of meals, 82,000 meals, twice a week. Yeah, it's very.
And we really appreciate all the work of all of our food service, and also we had a lot of WWS staff that always volunteered to either help bag or help pass out meals. So, I mean, it was a big endeavor.
Yes, absolutely. All righty. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. All right, motion carries. All right, Dr. Great.
Okay, so we have some guests with us this evening, Evan Hawk and Carol Sergi, and they are here with TMAP this evening, and I can give you a chance to maybe share a little bit about what your endeavor is all about. But you are an Indiana-based startup company using technology and targeted marketing really to identify, engage, and recruit talent for companies and communities across Indiana. And so they've spent the last 2 years assembling a database of the addressable talent pool for the state of Indiana. And so their role in their initiative is to help the community identify the best recruits, run engagement campaigns to attract recruits to the state, and then match them to a marketplace of companies in the region. And so what I'm bringing to the board tonight for a recommendation is to enter into a memorandum of understanding with TMAP, and that would be to provide them with information that is allowable for our students' database to be able to recruit talent and bring them back to Indiana. Would you like to share anything?
Thank you for having us. So this is Carol Sergi from Invest Hamilton County. As Dr. Great said, my name is Evan Hawk. I'm from TMAP. We are a local technology firm, and our mission is to recruit talented individuals that have moved out of the state back to the state. And so how do we do that? We partner with local communities to identify those recruits and market to them. And then our role is to actually find them jobs, help them get introduced to companies, and with any support in moving. So we're partnering with all the school systems throughout Hamilton County. We have Hamilton Southeast and Hamilton Heights have signed up already. And so this memorandum of understanding is essentially outlining our relationship with Westfield. Basically, Our database holds the entire addressable talent pool throughout the country. By providing some of the publicly available information on alumni from the schools, we're able to identify who in our database are alums and who we should go target to move back to Hamilton County. So happy to answer any questions. Appreciate the time.
Thank you, Evan. And so with that, I would like to recommend that the Board of School Trustees approve the MOU with TMAP.
Okay, with that, we'll entertain a motion.
So moved.
All righty. Do I have a second? I will second that. Any additional questions or comments?
Yeah, so we use the information to identify the people that might have affinity for the region, folks that graduate from school here or maybe university. Then we use that information to build a marketing campaign to recruit them back. So for instance, we've done this with at university and so we have them with Purdue, for instance, and Mitch Daniels sent out a message to all of their alumni to say, hey, we want you back. And then our job is to actually help people find jobs.
I would think kind of development and use contracting now.
I'm with Hamilton County Economic Development. We contracted with TMAP because we created the 21st Century Talent Region for Hamilton County. My job is to attract and retain talent for the county so that we have the right talent. Prior to COVID, of course, we were trying to, we had such a low unemployment rate that we were trying to bring people here to live and work and bring back people who are from Hamilton County to come back here. Now we're just really working on trying to retain people who are leaving here. We have a lot of people who graduate from schools in Indiana and don't come back, and we're trying to work on ways with the help of TMAP to identify people who have graduated from Hamilton County schools, moved to other places in the country, and then we want to bring them back and help them find jobs here in the county.
Okay, thanks for asking, Bill. All righty. Do I have a motion? Sorry about that. All right, that was the discussion and questions. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Sorry, the motion carries. All right, Mr. Tom Michael.
All right. First up tonight is a request to authorize weekly check runs for the district. Normally, we only pay utilities or certain bills that have a due date on a weekly basis. During COVID, due to everybody working remotely and just less hours in the building, we have been working more on a weekly check run basis. What we found during that is it really eliminates that bulge coming through once a month and kind of backlogging the entire system as we work, and it kind of made a more smooth workflow for the entire finance department. Kept everybody more on the track, better pace, everything just ran a little smoother. So we are asking if we can continue that process for the remainder of the year. We made it a kind of a yearly authorization that we can come back every year for any reason, any time you want us to stop. We have a clean stop point at that time as well. And then I did put in there just a reminder that anything over $50,000 would still require special board approval. So normally those are going to be contracts that are going to come to the board prior for authorization anyways. So those documents would not be carried through on the normal weekly check run unless they had already been pre-approved at a different time. So we would ask that you approve weekly check runs.
Okay, thank you. I'll entertain a motion.
I'll make a motion to automate weekly check runs as presented.
Okay, I'll second that. Any additional questions? All right, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
And opposed, same sign. Motion carries. Mr. Tom Michael again.
So the next item is sale of two old vehicles, two old trucks that we have over at the mechanics barn at the transportation department. One truck is a 2003 Ford F-250, one is a 2001 GMC Sierra. Both vehicles are to the point of disrepair that we could not even get the odometer to turn on to get a mileage reading. So they're pretty bad. I will say our mechanics do a fantastic job of keeping something running to the last day. So the fact that basically a 19 and 17-year-old truck is impressive for how many miles we usually put on a vehicle. So we were able to get 2 quotes to sell. So it's not a lot, but we would ask permission to move forward with selling both of those vehicles.
Okay. Sounds like a good idea. I'll entertain a motion. Thank you, Bill. I will second. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
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 Okay. Opposed, same sign. Motion carries. And one more item, donations and grants, Mr. Tom Michael.
So we have 1 donation per board policy. The donation above $5,000 has to come for the board for official approval. We have a $10,000 donation from Genesis Church. All credit to this one goes to Kyle Miller. He's been the one working with them to kind of carry on this conversation, I believe, for a couple months now. And they finally reached out and said, how can we utilize some dollars that we can give them? So that line is in your board report of where Kyle wanted to utilize those funds. I know he's very excited to have the dollars utilized as well, and we're always grateful for a $10,000 donation.
Absolutely. I'll entertain a motion. All right, I'll second that. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. And thank you very much to Genesis Church. All right. Mr. Tom Michael, you're up again.
So if it's okay with the board, I will go through all these at one time like we normally do. Is that
Sure.
fine? Okay. And then I just wanted to clarify one thing. It's not in any of these resolutions, but just a comment that was made earlier of the $66 million. So when we do these projects, we have to list a max term, a max annual debt payment, and then a max rate. All those categories cannot be gone over. What you will often see is because of when the project's taking place, the timelines our first year or two, the payments can be higher than our total payments because of capitalized interest. So oftentimes we list that max rate just because we can't go over that initial threshold. If you look at the actual payback of this, we cannot exceed the 5%, which was in the resolution, I believe, 2 months ago, or back in February. I was actually texting Matt real quick during the meeting. If we sold these today, we expect to be closer to 3% interest rate. In our current projections that we're utilizing in our tax rate projections is $12 million in interest, which is based on the 5% rate that was approved. So I understand if you look at them, sometimes you just want to calculate all the numbers out, and that's why you can get a bigger number. But we have to set max on each line, which can give that appearance, but that's not the legality case behind it. So, I will read each resolution. Sorry for the long-windedness on these, and then if you have any questions, let me know. So the first resolution authorizing the execution of lease agreement as required by school leasing statute IC 2047-3. After a hearing, the school board must approve the lease and authorize the officers to execute such agreement. This lease is the agreement whereby the school corporation will levy the required property tax to pay the lease payments. The lease payments will be paid by the building corporation and used to pay the bondholders. Without the lease, bondholders will have no assurance that the building corporation will repay the bonds. The lease is a mechanism by which the property tax collections can get to the bondholders. The additional appropriation resolution 2020-19. After the additional appropriation hearing, the school board will adopt the resolutions which outlines the appropriation of funds received for the sale of real estate, which in this case is to pay off the debt and to build the structure. The resolution also specifies that the funds will be placed in the school corporation construction account, which we continue to use Bank of New York Mellon, separate from all other school corporation funds until the project is completed. As required by the school leasing statute IC 2047-3, the board must determine resolution determining the need for the project, which is kind of where Dr. Gray explained the need. As required by the school leasing statute 2047-3, the board must determine that there is a need for the project. Resolution assigning construction bids and contractors for the building corporation. The building corporation will own the real estate upon which the new early learning central office will be constructed, building to be constructed. The building corporation will also be the issuer of the bonds. The bond proceeds will be held by the trustee bank, which again is Bank of New York Mellon, and will be used to pay the contractors for the work done on the building. As a result, the construction bids and the contracts will need to be in the building corporation. Will need to be with the building corporation because the building corporation will hold the money and pay the contractors. The school corporation receives the bids and the contracts awarded, the bids and the contract under state law. And assign those to the contracts to the building corporation. As Rebecca and I were talking real quick, just kind of a reminder for the board, the bids will come in at a later time. The board still has to approve the bids, and we will not issue these bonds until the bids have been approved, so we can ensure that the project's going to come in under what we're going to issue. It would not make any sense to issue debt and then hope the bids come in. So that's the order that would go. The next resolution approving the sixth supplement to the master continuing disclosure undertaking and issuing bonds. The SEC requires that school corporations enter into a sixth supplemental mastering continuing disclosure undertaking before it issues bonds. The school corporation has previously entered into this type of agreement where we have to make sure items are posted to Emma on a timely basis. As we kind of discussed in past issues, we utilize Ice Miller for this. They do a really good job. We have to file a quarterly report with them to make sure we're compliant on items. And also they help us ensure that Emma is up to date. It's not an area where you want to make the SEC mad. So we make sure all those are compliant up to date, and we're able to utilize Ice Miller for that. And then the final resolution is approving issuance of bond anticipation notes. The board will approve the issuance of bond anticipation notes for one or more series to permit the payment of preliminary costs related to the project. Bond anticipation notes would be repaid by the issuance of the bonds. While this is in here, I can tell you my preference is long-term that we avoid doing this. It does give us that ability. We had the first actually Crite bill come in today because we're working on the land and finishing up the site work of where's everything going to go, what's it going to look like, and where's everything located at. And we will do our best to make sure we pay all those with cash on hand because that is in the long run the cheapest way to do it. However, if this project gets pushed farther down the road and we have more architect fees coming in as the design's happening, we do have the ability to issue a band at that time, which is a bond anticipation note and give us the money to help pay those expenses as they occur. So it gives us stability, does not mean we have to, but it is there, and we clearly have conversations with the board when that time comes if it can. So if there's any questions, please let me know.
Okay, thank you. I'll entertain a motion.
I'll make the motion to approve resolutions 2020-18 through 2020-23 as they relate to the Early Learning Center Central Office lease as presented.
All right, do we have a second? All right, thank you. Any additional questions or discussion?
I would like to offer for discussion some of the things that weighed into my thought process, knowing this was on the agenda and the time that we are, what is amidst us, right? There's a lot of unknowns, but as you can tell, our business corporation as a school and most of your companies are moving forward as a going concern. We cannot predict what will happen, but we certainly can't stop planning for things that will happen when our life can resume, when a vaccine comes in, herd immunity, whatever your stance is on COVID, we will be again. So knowing that there were a lot of time and effort gone into this process, a lot of expenses, this is not a cheap process to get to this point, not wanting to lose those dollars and that energy, and also knowing that if we are under another lockdown, if the economy were to backslide and we are not able to continue expanding our teaching staff, which primarily is utilized by the Early Learning Center at this time, we can stop at the point of issuing the construction bids. So there is still a time in my mind that I can in good faith move forward with this and know that before it becomes an irresponsible spend and a burden on our community, we could address it and take a different path.
Thank you, Rebecca. All right. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. All right, motion carries. Okay, believe it or not, we have come to the public comment section. Just a few quick reminders. as a few quick reminders to the public comments. The purpose of the comment period is to allow the public to give the board feedback or comment, but the board is in a listening mode, and we do not engage in conversation or debate. The comment cards have been, are required, and I do have those. And speaking is limited to 3 minutes per person. And as I said earlier, the board will stay until everybody that wants to speak is provided an opportunity to do so. And as always, please be respectful with your comments. So we will begin. Okay, Ronnie Sanders.
Good evening. Ronnie Saunders, 4541 Boyd Place in Westfield. I'm actually a parent of a potentially student of this elementary school, hopefully kindergarten coming up this year. And I guess just my concern, not only as a parent, but just somebody who lives here in Westfield, that's just with the upcoming school year, again, there being questions of how things are going to go. We've heard of and seen the reopening, the reopening process that's going to be taking place here in Westfield schools. And I guess my concern is, are there going to be any kind of contingency plans, or are there any contingency plans in place? Looking forward, I noticed how things happened in Marion County when the pandemic was first broke out, and how the schools in Hamilton County eventually followed suit. And I guess just wondering how that's going to look, how that's going to take place with our children, especially our early starters. Like I said, I'm a father of a soon-to-be kindergartner who enjoyed her preschool year, is loving learning, and is very interested in continuing on. She has seen this building. She is excited about kindergarten, but I don't want to stifle that love and desire for school, especially at such an early age. Really, I'm just looking for some kind of contingency or backup plan, and if that's possible, if I could find that either on the website or maybe talk to somebody after the fact. Really kind of curious, and probably like a lot of parents, really trying to weigh our options right now, because she's a smart girl. We've talked to her about what's going on in the world. She's not excited about wearing masks. She's not excited about social distancing, and I know that these are kind of hindrances that could be an issue for somebody's learning, and not for only my child, but for all the children and families that are making these decisions. I'm just hoping that there's some kind of contingency plan that we can hopefully look forward to. I know a lot of folks are for distance learning, some are against it. I have my own personal views on it, but just looking really just for some insight and some guidance, and hopefully that's something that all parents that are dealing with that here in this district can find. Thank you for your time.
Oh, thank you. Madison Wall.
Hi, my name is Madison Walker. I'm an incoming senior at Westfield High School. The past 3 years at WHS have gone by in the blink of an eye, and I would not change it for the world, especially because of the amazing staff that we have at WHS. We are blessed with some of the best staff members who really do care about our students, from Dr. McGuire, counselors, teachers, and even our awesome lunch ladies. Dr. McGuire truly is a blessing to our community and to Westfield High School. Speaking from personal experience, my neighbor Jacob passed away sophomore year when I was a freshman. Dr. McGuire came on the PA system to let us know what had happened. It was a devastating loss for our community and our school system, but thanks to Dr. McGuire, the grieving process was a lot easier. Not easy, but easier. Dr. McGuire opened up our learning center and allowed students to go down at any time, even during class, and grieve and process the terrible information we received that day. This is just one of many times she has put her students first. I moved to Westfield in 6th grade, so I didn't really experience what it was like to grow up here. But I do know that at WHS, we were taught about the Westfield way. Dr. McGuire did a great job at teaching us all her students, or her kids as she calls us, how to demonstrate the Westfield way and what it really does mean to be a Shamrock. If you aren't familiar with this, the Westfield way is a pledge every day to be 10% kinder, 10% more present, 10% more positive, and to be 10% more grateful. How does what is happening right now demonstrate the Westfield way? I believe we should practice what we preach, so is moving Dr. McGuire to a position that she doesn't want, being more kind and more positive? Going into my senior year, I should not be afraid to walk the halls of WHS without my amazing principal by my side. Speaking for the student body and for all of my senior class, we need Dr. McGuire. With all the chaos going on right now, we really cannot do this next school year without her. Finally, I have a question for you all that I would like to let sit with you. Have any of your children ever struggled with mental health and you got angry when someone made things worse for them? That's what our parents are feeling. Angry that we do not have answers and that this decision is making their children struggle. Thank you.
Thank you, Madison. Carrie Harrison?
When I was first asked to speak on behalf of teachers, I honestly thought that I was just lending voice to high school teachers who didn't feel safe talking themselves. Unfortunately, that was just the beginning. I began getting emails, texts, instant messages, and even letters from other teachers in the district who also wanted to speak out or were too afraid of retribution. I'm not talking about one or two, but dozens. Some told stories of how they'd been reprimanded for voicing an opinion that was different from Dr. Grates or one of her directors. Others told how terrible the morale has been in their buildings because they feel oppressed and afraid to speak their minds. One said she felt like she was teaching an economy in this country because she's so afraid of saying the wrong thing. Why won't you go on record saying you'll protect them? Isn't it telling that no one who still works in schools is speaking tonight? Most were even afraid to come and sit and listen. They figure that if this can happen to Dr. McGuire, it can happen to anyone. Many of them will reach out to you and sign a petition. Another teacher said that even though they're asked to sit on planning committees or fill out surveys, it's all just smoke and mirrors to make it look like someone cares, but no one ever does listen to them. When teachers say that ending school early due to COVID actually helped their stress levels, doesn't that tell you that we have a huge problem? I was also contacted unsolicited by several members who work for Dr. Gray in DeKalb County, and all of them share similar instances where they're either reassigned to a job they didn't feel qualified for after they disagreed with Dr. Gray or were forced out completely. Now, I know that hearing about so many scared teachers, both from here in DeKalb, might sound a little unbelievable, and I wish it were. But for those of you who know me, I hope you also know that I would never say something this damaging if it weren't true. Ironically, it sounds like the high school teachers were some of the happiest among our buildings last year, but that's changed. Now they find that the high school is one of stress and fear, The construction and COVID are bad enough, and having a new principal on top of that's creating more anxiety than they need. They want Stacy back. And if that won't happen, then they're asking to please fill in place as interim principals, so they have one less thing to worry about. The school board used to have a good pulse on the culture of the schools, but that's changed in the past few years, and that needs to change back. Some of you were specifically told last year by high school staff that we didn't want the school daytime change. And I remember you saying that you were surprised because Dr. Great had told you that we were all for it. So who do you think was telling the truth in that case? We certainly had no reason to lie. So I say again, it's time for the school board to reassure teachers that they're valued as professionals and that they won't be punished for speaking their minds. It's time for the board to get out and talk to teachers to find out what they need and what their students really need. And it's time to stop blindly trusting that you're being told the entire truth. Thank you.
Thank you, Karen. Mike Reese?
Sorry, give me a second. Good evening, I'm Mike Reese, and for those of you that work in the district, I'm the one that's been sending those emails. It's all of you the last few weeks. I'm also one of the 3 minority staff members at the high school. Notice I said staff members. I'm here to speak today really about something that has not been mentioned since June 25th, and I'll get to that later. Out of respect for our district leaders, I will not use names but only their titles when I'm speaking. Why did it take so long to finally get a response from our superintendent after the June 16th email? I'm not talking about the important message about racism email that was sent out on June 25th. I'll get to that later. The first response we received was from another woman at Central Office. And she asked me to either write or approve a statement for Juneteenth. Why was that an appropriate time to ask for such a request? I teach science. I'm not a history teacher. Not only was that insulting, but it also has racist roots and assumptions tied with it. It was only after my candid refusal, not my words by the way, but it was only after my candid refusal to be used as a pawn did we finally get a response from our superintendent. Here's a request that the Westfield High School equity team meet so we could voice those concerns. That meeting was held on June 24th. For an hour, we managed to talk circles around racism, and the meeting focused on getting updates from our subgroups from our team. To be honest, the information that our subgroups have been doing is pretty awesome. It's great. But it was completely tone deaf to the reason why that meeting was called. Sorry, Coach Newer, but I'm not sure if I'm going to keep working on the equity team after that. The June 25th email about racism was an extremely late response. What is it start? Crucial, meaningful information to reassure families of color is missing. Also, to this day, I'm not sure if that email was sent to families or just to staff. At no point does that email truly acknowledge that Westfield Washington Schools has a problem with racism and bigotry. Did you know that since that email, 2 swastikas have been found drawn in Centennial, one of our very own neighborhoods where many of our families, our students, and our teachers live? The message sounds good, but it never acknowledges the continuous failures of our school system to the minority community. I'm also a 2011 graduate from the school system. Sorry, Mom. Perhaps most importantly, there is no apology. far as I know, at no point has the district offered an apology to the recent victims of racial bigotry and hate. There were plenty of opportunities to offer an apology. During the best time, the principal of the middle school tried to save face and insinuate that the victimized students' parents were somewhat lying about the reported incidents when he made a largely true comment. After that statement was made, we were told that the principal, I'm not going to put anything else on there. From my aspect, he's not an ally. We removed an ally from the high school.
Mr. Reeves? Closing comment.
Well, I'll skip ahead to the end. You say you hear us, but do you really? Are you really listening to the minorities within our district?
Susan Dixon?
Thank you for the opportunity. I know it's getting late here, and I'll be brief because I echo the sentiments of everyone in this room. School's starting in under a month, and it's readily apparent that stability and semblance of normalcy is critical in Westfield right now. Does the removal of Dr. McGuire's signal to us that you're committed to doing what's best for our community? You solicited my opinion around a new leader at Westfield High School, which would also seemingly be a personnel issue. Yet you did not extend that same courtesy to our parents when you made a monumental and non-unanimous decision to remove our long-time high school principal. Even if you foresee this as inevitable change, why would any school choose to move forward with such a dramatic and unjustified shift now? The Ross family you tout deserves better guidance, transparency in leadership, and a path to restoring Dr. McGuire's position. Thank you.
Becky Bruno?
Thank you for affording me the opportunity to speak with you today on behalf of many concerned parents and citizens of the district. School board members are elected members of the community who pursue a vision for local schools reflecting the needs of the students, the wishes of the voters, and the consensus of the community. You are responsible for the care and well-being of Westfield's most important citizens, our student body. Once again, I reiterate, school board members are an elected body. So I'm curious about our school board. Do you honestly believe you are doing an effective job? Are you doing more than attending meetings that have a predetermined outcome? Or are you truly holding these positions to do the best for your constituency? I and almost 5,000 others in this community are very skeptical at this time. In July, a closed session of the board was held to discuss the fate of Principal Dr. McGuire. Decision was made to demote Dr. McGuire 3-2. A 3-2 vote on personnel is unacceptable. Obviously, there's been no behavior issues or she would have been fired. It was placed on a minuscule line item personnel. We are highly concerned by what appears to be a hapless leader. We are concerned that the sheep are being led to slaughter by a wolf in sheep's clothing. Superintendent Gray. Dr. McGuire's performance or behavior as an educator, these would be items that would have been discussed at great length with not only Dr. McGuire, but also school board over time with a remediation plan. not some thinly veiled attempt to move a valued member of our administration. She has excelled at for over 20 years. This appears to be nothing more than a power move by a superintendent that does not like to have anyone disagree with or have their own opinion. Attributes that most teams strive for, but it appears in Superintendent Gray's world, she'd rather just work to remove them. Narcissism 101. In response to the obvious public shock at the ludicrous decision to remove Stacy, we now have what appears to be a fake survey, identifying the qualities one would like to see and who could be the next school principal. The community indeed has spoken with and was heard very loud and clear. Bring back Stacy. That the 5,000 you are not listening to will vote for a 2022 referendum if you don't do what is right. Why would 3 of you vote to demote Dr. McGuire? Could it be that you no longer care about knowing facts before actions? Were you falsely led to the decision by a gifted orator? Perhaps your vote was out of cozy friendship with superintendent, baby showers, concerts, social relationships, and not that of simply doing what is judicial and right. Perhaps your judgment was clouded. Stacy has been loyal and extremely successful employee. Amber, did you ask Dr. McGuire if she even wanted this position? If not, very naive. Dwayne, did you call Stacy and ask about her, any negative behaviors that were shared with you? Probably should have. Amy, after all these years of children going through the system, did you call and check on Stacy when her father passed away? Did you show sympathy during this time? Or no, because of her taking personnel? On all counts, Amy, Amber, and Dwayne, you have been played. Know that come November, those that truly do have the best interest of the student, staff, and administration will be in place to serve them well.
Reba Evans.
Hi, good evening. I am a parent of 3 children, 2 who have graduated from WHS and 1 that's going to be an incoming freshman. I'm speaking up today out of concern. I find the timing of the removal of Dr. McGuire suspect and disappointing. There is already such upheaval with COVID and the construction project, it just seems like the worst time to make a principal change and move her to alternative learning when teachers and children are looking for leadership and safety. I also have concerns and think our entire community has questions surrounding alternative learning and moving Dr. McGuire into this role. Alternative learning was explored 2 years ago and decided that it was not worth the investment, so we need to understand what has changed and why the urgency. Traditional learning has produced 98% graduation rate, millions in scholarships, and strong career training. So is there a business need here? Especially when our neighborhood cities already have programs and have facility going into Westfield next year. Have you validated that the need for alternative learning program exists and can't be met with the programs that are already in place? We are hoping for transparency with regards to the many outstanding questions. If this move is necessary, we would like to see the job description for Dr. McGuire. Along with the job description, there are many startup questions such as what is the budget for the alternative learning program? What are the known costs such as salary, benefits, and the startup costs of the program? What are the goals of the program and how are we defining success? If it is successful and kids move away from traditional learning, how much less will we be given per each alternative student from the state? If the alternative learning program does not end up being a viable solution with the current budget, what will become of Dr. McGuire's position. We want to ensure that alternative learning is a necessary step for our community and that we have validated that it is worth the cost. How can we afford this now with increased budgetary needs due to COVID safety implementation? Thank you.
Thank you. Ann Wolf?
Good evening. I have 3 easy questions for the board and for Dr. Gray. One might actually call them softball questions. And I sincerely implore the board or Dr. Gray to respond in communication to the WWS community as soon as possible. Could you please explain why it's in the best interest of the students to begin the creation of an alternative learning program for WWS right now, at this time at the start of the 2021 school year? Number 2, could you please explain why it is in the best interest of the high school students to have their principal removed and appointed as the administrator of an alternative learning program right now at the start of the 2021 school year? And lastly, could you please explain why is it in the best interest of our high school students to introduce a new leader in the midst of unprecedented uncertainty?
Susanna Cyrene, I say that right.
So this is outside my comfort zone, and I'm probably going to repeat a lot of the same things that people already said. So bear with me. Sorry. This community is made up of multi-generational families that have attended WHS from K through 12, as well as people who have transferred in due to jobs, or just to be part of the school corporation and for many other reasons. I'm sorry that you don't feel like part of the community, but we help support. But this community is about our students, and that's why I'm here, because they are what build up and they are the future of this community. Our high school is tops in the state in graduation rate, second in college readiness, fourth in AP, ninth overall according to U.S. News and World Report. We've received huge distinctions for advanced placement and Project Lead the Way successes. The improvements that WHS has received under Dr. McGuire's leadership are astounding. The demotion does not appear to be performance related. I believe this illustrated by the prior noted accolades. I believe Dr. McGuire did not achieve these accolades on her own. I believe she and her staff, working under her guidance, made these advancements in the high school system. The evidence of her leadership abilities to work with those who will report to her and get the best results. And frankly, that is the definition of a team player. So the questions to the board that I know are just rhetorical at this point and say the same thing. And they are directed to those that voted for the demotion and as well as the superintendent, taking an effective leader away from a new job for someone else that could possibly do it for less money. It possibly would be easier to find someone qualified to work with a fewer number of alternative school kids than to find a high-functioning school principal. What is the true need for Westfield High School to provide a service? What is the longevity of this type of program? What if the program is not viable or fiscally achievable? What becomes of Dr. McGuire? Were all these factors weighed and discussed amongst the board? Do you feel the decision to demote Dr. McGuire made by 3 board members and Dr. Gray reflects the will of the community that you are representing as a petition to bring back Dr. McGuire has nearly 5,000 signatures? In a 2016 current in Westfield interview with Dr. Gray when she came on board, she noted it was important to educate the community on how our schools are funded. I also believe that it's important for the community to know how the funds are being utilized. While I care about Dr. McGuire as a person, I believe it's her assets that WHS truly need, and are we putting her skills to the best use? As members of the school board and superintendent, I'm assuming your roles are to better the system for the children. And if you're truly interested in doing the best thing for the kids, why would you abandon all of our kids by removing one of the best high school principals in the state? This is not divisive action. This is dissent with the actions of certain school board members and the superintendent. Dr. Gray, you asked for input when you announced this exciting news from diverse constituent groups, including students, staff, and community members. Here it is. We remember in November.
Tendra Duff.
First of all, I want to thank everybody who's wearing your mask and is helping to avoid the spread of COVID. If you brought it, forgot to put it on, take a second, put it on, and help us stop the spread. We're in the middle of a pandemic, obviously. We have worse things to worry about. We don't have time to put our time and effort towards finding a new principal. Mom always told me, if you make a mistake, it's okay to say a mistake was made. We might not have been in a severe So what we are asking as a community, it's okay to say, you know what, maybe we were wrong, maybe a mistake was made. Let's go back and reevaluate everything. Don't have too much pride in yourself to say a mistake was made, and then we need to sit down and reevaluate things. Stacy is the support Westfield needs. She knows the community, she knows the students, and she knows what these kids need right now. And what these kids need is someone who will listen, support them, and guide them. So please reevaluate. It's okay to say we're wrong and to go back on your word.
Mike Steele.
My name is Mike Steele. A lot of you may know me. I'm a lifelong resident. Been coaching for the last 25 years. Been in the classroom as a substitute teacher for the last 25 years. I've been afforded that because as an IFD fireman, I get days off and everything else. I'm directing my concerns to the entire school board. I voted for each and every single one of you guys to represent me and the community to ensure our schools are the best, or are the best in the state. And we're just about there. I also trusted that you would conduct business in a fair and equitable way, with the best interest of the administrators, teachers, and students being your top priority. We use the word family a lot in sports: football, basketball, wrestling, just to name a few. We use the word family when it comes to schools: Montreal, Oak Trace, Maple Glen, Shamrock Springs, again, just to name a few. As a family, don't we get both sides of stories? If the siblings are arguing, don't we get both sides of stories, not just punish one side or the other? I know Dr. Gray shared her side of the story with you, but did you get or reach out to Dr. McGuire to get her side of the story? If your son would have been disciplined by a teacher or a coach without hearing his side of the story, would you be okay with that? I know Bill would have called me right away. We expect our administrators, coaches, teachers to treat our children a certain way. Shouldn't we be that example? on how to treat people. Should we treat others like the way we would want to be treated? And go off the young lady that was just up there, as my dad said, it's only a mistake if you can't fix it. Thank goodness for spell check when it comes to writing emails and everything else. Thank you.
Carolyn Stevenson.
Sure, I can hold this and read at the same time. Try to multitask here. Good evening, school board members and Dr. Gray. Appreciate your time and taking to listen to all of this. I'm Carolyn Stevenson, lived here 43 years. I'm a wife of 55 years. I have 4 children, and I have 6 grandchildren. And I have grandchildren in several of the schools. Let's talk about values. VALUES. The beliefs of a person or a group. We as a community have always believed in values. Definition: standing on principles, being true to ourselves and our community, family, friends, neighbors, having the quality of being clear. That's the definition of transparency, being clear. The school board and our superintendent have not been transparent or clear on what has transpired these past several weeks in the community. Dr. Stacy McGuire grew up on these values. Her family and generations grew up on these values, as did the majority of you people in this room. She grew up in a Christian home and was taught to love our neighbors as ourselves. That's how she presented herself to this community, to other communities, to staff, teachers, and especially her students. Dr. McGuire is authentic, not counterfeit. She's a leader, not a follower. She was transparent, free of deceit, easily understood, made herself clear, and she stood her ground on what she believed. I'm going to read a statement following the school board meeting in June in response to a lot of emails from us as concerned citizens, and I quote, "We are united in our responsibility to serve the district and in wanting the best for our students, teachers, and community. We agree as a board we must work together to strengthen and heal our community." Then why are we here? Why are we pleading for Dr. McGuire to be returned as principal of Westfield High School? Mrs. Pender stated in her response to a question on social media, she had no idea where the money was going to come from to pay the new position that was created. And why did you support it? And Mrs. Willis, I was your preschool teacher. I was Chad's preschool teacher, your brother. I voted for you. I'm truly disappointed. Now, what are you all thinking? You all have shaken this community to the core. You all blindsided Dr. McGuire and this community in a climate of uncertainties. Where was the compassion in this decision? The human quality of understanding the suffering of others and wanting to do something about it. This was a quality that Dr. McGuire had for her staff, teachers, and especially her students. She had deep awareness of empathy for another's suffering. We as a community have a chance to go back and make this right if she's not brought back as principal of Westfield High School.
If you could wrap up.
I will. I have food for thought for each one of you. If you're thinking about another referendum, you better think again. Thank you for giving me the time to speak.
Jim.
Thank you for giving me the opportunity to speak to you tonight. It seems to me that we've come to an impasse here. It's hurt the community, it's hurt a lot of our members. I don't have children in the schools. I volunteered, I've raised money for the schools in various capacities. I helped get the new stadium built, and I'm very proud of our efforts working together as an entire community. Many things have been said that I was thinking about saying, so I'll make this short. I think the conundrum we find ourselves in is that it wasn't a clear-cut decision. The vote on school board was 3-2. There are some reasons why 2 of you voted to not suspend or transfer Stacy McGuire from the high school. 3 of you decided that it was something that needed to happen. This is not very clear for us. So I think a lot of us here in this building are very confused after all that Stacy put into her position and love of our community and the way she served the students, our cherished children in this community. So I'm a little bit disappointed, I'm very confused, and I don't quite understand, but we're not to the road of no return at this point. There may be something that can be done to right this wrong. It not only affects the schools, it affects the city, its operations, and the future of our community in terms of development and outcome. And money isn't the thing here, it's doing the right thing here. Thank you.
Abby Penn.
I'm just going to echo the words that have already been said tonight. I think it's very clear where we all stand as a community with Dr. McGuire. As I said before, I'm a mother of 6 kids, so if you can imagine, budgeting is my thing. I find it really interesting that Westfield Schools not that long ago was in a predicament to be taken over by the state because of their financial situation that they were in. I find it also very ironic that we've cut individuals out of classrooms, especially people like the IAs that are needed in the classroom. We have $130,000 for a new position for Dr. McGuire, where we have the resources right down the street that can help those individuals who need it. Westfield does not need this at all, actually. We are already taking care of them this. I'm going to echo my words along with everyone else that has spoken tonight, that I think it's time that you rethink this decision, that you be more transparent with the community in this decision. During a global pandemic was not the time to make this decision at all. Having kids in this community, friends in this community, and although I have not had my children go through Westfield High School, I have heard nothing but good things about Dr. McGuire. Good things about her. I am disappointed, actually, that in that meeting that night, it was asked the question of, is this a personal problem that you have with Dr. McGuire? The question was asked multiple times, and the answer was no, but yet no reason was given as to why she would need a new position. Did she want this? And if she did, why isn't she here tonight telling us that this was her decision?
Mr. Dalton?
Thank you. Is it working all right? I'm going to talk about the culture of Westfield schools. And about 3 of you school board members know I know the culture, because I hugged your kids when they got hurt in football. I hugged your kid when he hit a shot at half court. I hugged your kid when he got hurt in wrestling. And so I've been involved with Westfield schools since 2005. I know a lot of teachers, and a lot of teachers know me. I substitute taught in the high school when my son was there, so I know our culture, or what it used to be. I'm not going to dwell on the Stacey McGuire thing, because I think I could have a motion right now that everybody in this room wants her back. Do I have a second? I'd like to see a school board that let our culture be trashed. We've had multiple teachers, employees, and administrators pressured out of their jobs by fear and intimidation. Why do we so rarely lose teachers, but we lose so many leaders, like Dr. Scott Williams and others, or employees like Jan Skinner that have to deal with Dr. Gray, who were all hired before she got here? Has any of you talked to any of these employees? We expect our school children not to bully each other. I see it every day as you're assigned to every school. Why does the board sit by and let bullying go on? Before Dr. Gray, Westfield Washington Schools ranked 8th among all big businesses in central Indiana as a top workplace for 2015 as a result of a survey in 2016. We were the only school system on that. The big question, why are we no longer on that list? Our culture is the worst it's ever been. The school board members, you ran to protect and help and serve. But changing this culture is your legacy. You have chances to fix it. You took a great culture and you trashed it. Why don't you survey the teachers like we used to every year and get their responses as to the academic programs they're being asked to teach? Teachers are tired of operating in fear and isolation, constantly looking over their shoulder. We're on the cusp of losing outstanding people because they don't want to work in this toxic workplace culture. Why don't you just do your job and protect them? And again, we will remember in November.
Benita Bowman.
Thank you. I have 3 brief questions for the board, but first I'd like to thank Mrs. Vogel for acknowledging my email that I sent to all 5 board members. I think if you take the time to express your opinion, the least that you could do is acknowledge that you received it. I would hope that you read it. I kind of doubt that everybody did. But one thing I asked in that letter was that you put this matter of Stacey McGuire under advisement, that you take 30 days, and that you do your own homework. Don't listen to Dr. Gray. Do your own homework. Talk to students, talk to their parents, and talk to community members. The first thing I would like to know what the budget is for the Alternative Learning Center. Where are the funds for that department coming from? And are we certain that the funds will be available for this initiative for the coming year and the next several years after that? The issues surrounding COVID-19 may affect funding for this coming school year.
So is this the right time to be be funding a new initiative? And could this question be addressed publicly? Could there be some input? Second, this is a general question. It's not associated with any specific employee. What is the process when an employee, whether under contract or salary, is quote-unquote reassigned to a different position? Are there written procedures for this type of transfer? I'm cold, I'm shaking, I'm cold. When an employee is informed that they are being reassigned, what are the options available to that employee? What factors does the school board consider when approving a reassignment such as this? I believe this is also an issue that the general public would like clarified. And the third thing is, has the position of principal of the Westfield High School been posted yet? And how widely has this position been advertised? Since we currently have 2 qualified people acting in this position, there needn't be a rush to hire someone right away. Will the names of the finalists be made public? And will the community input be encouraged, and will it be accepted in regarding this really important position? And I'd like to remind the board, they were voted onto this board to represent the interests of the students, the parents, and the tax-paying members of this community. Obviously, I'm too old to have a kid in school, but I had one go through school. I'm a taxpayer, and so I still have an interest in what goes on in this school. And I guess I can echo everybody else's opinion. We will remember in November.
Thank you. Gina Chafee.
Immediately after the peaceful protest on June 16, Sherry Green issued this statement. We understand the passionate support for Dr. McGuire. Watching and reading what has transpired over the past several days is disheartening. Disagreeing with decisions made by the superintendent and the school board is understandable and expected. However, the personal attacks and hatefulness toward school board members, WWS administration, and the superintendent only serves to further divide us. This statement was published by local media, in print, and on television. In effect, the superintendent patronizingly admonished the entire community, the taxpayers, her boss, the people who fund her paycheck. She also implies that the community does not have a right to peaceful protest. I'm embarrassed by her lack of professionalism and concerned that prospective homebuyers with children will see this statement and refrain from coming to our community. It's embarrassing. I have several questions regarding the superintendent's performance and evaluation. One, is there a protection of reputation clause in the current superintendent contract? By that I mean, if the superintendent harms, disparages, and demeans the school or its employees, are there consequences? If not, why not? If so, does she get a written warning? Will it go into her personnel file? Can she be terminated? I know that the superintendent has written up other employees for this exact same thing. Shouldn't she be treated the same? Also, I understand 6 of the 9 principals at WWS are no longer in their positions. Is removal of a principal brought before the school board, or is it solely at the superintendent's will to reassign and terminate? The retention rate of teachers and principals has been something that WWS has been proud of in the past. So my second question is, are retention rates part of her performance review? Much of the community shares a distrust with the superintendent. So it leads us to wonder how she was hired. Can you tell me who was involved in hiring her? Was it only the school board, or were principals, teachers, and parents involved? This is an important decision. It would seem like it would be hard for just one group to make that decision. Finally, it's nonsensical to believe anything other than Dr. McGuire's reassignment was because Sherry Great could not get along with Stacy. Since such a large part of the community has worked with Dr. McGuire, we know that the problem does not lie with her. It seems the superintendent couldn't motivate or lead, so she pettily risked the education of the community's children to ingratiate herself. The community is frightened that our highest-ranking school official does not have the children's welfare as her top priority. We are frightened that she can threaten her employees and create a culture of fear where our children go to school. I ask the school board, please consider this public outcry.
Eric Schaefer.
I had two boys go through the system, K through 12. Both boys went on to pretty highly thought of universities, and when they're there, they did well. Part of that is because of several teachers they had, coaches, and Stacy McGuire, because she put those pieces into place. I find it amazing, mind-boggling, that we got rid of the principal, basically on a personnel conflict. The superintendent couldn't play with the principal in the same sandbox. How petty. What a mess. What a mess 3 of you have allowed. I am so glad I have no more kids going through the school system. But as a taxpayer, I'd like to talk about focus on the referendum renewal of 2016 and how the district has changed under the current superintendent. In 2018, 65 instructional assistants were let go and reassigned. You know, the people who deal directly with the student. However, the size of the central office is a very different story. It is limited. Although enrollment at the elementary level has remained relatively flat, we've gone from 3 half-time elementary assistant principals to 6 full-time assistant principals. Partly designed to allow the principals to have more contact and coaching with the teaching staff, which is a good idea. But then the superintendent's good friend from DeKalb was hired as director of elementary curriculum. What happens? More instructional coaches to every school. Not only was another central office position added, but we went from 1 coach to 9 coaches. If our teachers need so much coaching on how to teach, why are they teachers in the first place? But there's more, buckle up here. We have a new director of operations and a financial specialist, previously done by 1 person. We now have an SEL coordinator, 2 new deans, a parents university coordinator, a director of secondary curriculum, until last week, 2 PR specialists. They resigned, which seems to be a trend. And most recently, the director of alternative learning. This is the new position fabricated for the banished high school principal. Do we need these positions? Some of them? Sure. Do we need all of them? No way. All these positions were created after the referendum, the renewal referendum in November 16. That was not the intent of the referendum. This is not how the referendum was. Your focus was to add teachers as we grew, maintain classroom size, and keep a focus on the student. This is not what has happened. Over 20 new administrative positions with salaries, stipends, benefits, training, conferences, surely $2 million a year, or $2 million annually. Load at the top and layers of middle management. That's a winning business model. Is there any oversight? Is there any accountability? Maybe not from anybody at the long table, but there will be in November.
Erica Strong.
I wanted to switch gears a little bit and talk about executive sessions. I've been a member of the Washington Township Board now for 19 months, which is the same amount of time that Bill and Rebecca have been on this school board. In the 19 months that I've been on the Westfield Washington Board, we've had one executive session, and that was due to pending litigation. Since January 2020, since I can't go back any farther on the website, the school board has had approximately 10 executive sessions. In an article from the American Association of School Administrators, which I'll forward to all board members, the author warns that getting into the habit of scheduling an executive session before each school board meeting, it was supposed to be one tonight, thankfully it was canceled, is a red flag. And executive sessions are often incorrectly used to decide what's going to be said in a meeting, who's going to say it, possibly even talk about votes, or to discuss an agenda that could be threatened, or an agenda item that could be threatened. Yesterday, I spoke to Indiana Public Access Counselor Luke Britt, and he confirmed that the need for executive sessions should be exercised judiciously and infrequently. He also told me a story about the Fort Wayne City Council. Bill, you're from Fort Wayne, right? Yep. All right, Fort Wayne City Council. This is the second largest municipality in our state. So earlier this spring, the Fort Wayne City Council reached out to Luke Britt, public access counselor, and said, we need your help. We need to have an executive session, and it's been 25 years, or possibly longer, since we've had an executive session. They couldn't remember any farther back, because that's as long as their attorney had been there. Maybe more than 25 years, like I said, their attorney didn't know. If the second largest municipality in our state can go that long without holding an executive session, surely our school board can start doing more business in the public. And Rebecca, thank you for making some comments. If you guys don't know, executive sessions are closed meetings, and you never get to find out what happens in them. I have no problem with that, but it seems like we're doing them quite often with the school board. And so my request is start having conversation in public, not behind closed doors, even talking to each other on the phone. Bring it to the meetings and tell us what's going on. Again, Rebecca, I appreciate you speaking up tonight, and I would just request that you start doing more business in public and less executive sessions. Thank you.
Craig Wood.
Greg Wood, I live on 191st Street. Grand Park is my backyard. Some of you know that, get the general idea. I have a reputation for asking questions and accountability. I will do so tonight. Yes, I would like to ask one-on-one all 5 members of the school board, Dr. Gray and Dr. McGuire, to get that whole perspective. Unfortunately, I know I can't do that because there are constraints, and I respect those constraints, having served on the Board of Zoning Appeals that has some similar constraints about talking with the public. My concern is, and I understand the passion that is going around the community, my concern is there going to be a polarization of both the community and the school system, rightfully or wrongfully done? I'm hearing about Remember in November. I'm hearing some alluding that there's basically a 3-2 rubber stamp favoring what Dr. Gray offers. Remember in November, that concerns me. Will there be a 3-2 or 4-1 or 5-0 rubber stamp that disagrees with Dr. Gray? I would ask you
A rubber stamp has no purpose on a board, school board or otherwise. Doesn't make any difference if it's pro or con. The board is charged to be objective and unbiased. Is that going to happen in November? I'm asking. I don't have that answer yet. I had a gut feeling from the previous election, but that's another story. But I'm asking, is that going to be what's going to happen? I've heard pretty much a vilification of Superintendent Dr. Grady. I'm a little surprised I haven't seen the burning and
echo everybody else's opinion. We will remember in November.
Thank you. Gina Chafee.
Immediately after the peaceful protest on June 16th, Sherry Great issued this statement. We understand the passionate support for Dr. McGuire. Watching and reading what has transpired over the past several days is disheartening. Disagreeing with decisions made by the superintendent and the school board is understandable and expected. However, the personal attacks and hatefulness toward school board members, WWS administration, and the superintendent only serves to further divide us. This statement was published by local media, in print, and on television. In effect, the superintendent patronizingly admonished the entire community, the taxpayers, her boss, the people who fund her paycheck. She also implies that the community does not have a right to peaceful protest. I'm embarrassed by her lack of professionalism and concerned that prospective homebuyers with children will see this statement and refrain from coming to our community. It's embarrassing. I have several questions regarding the superintendent's performance and evaluation. One, is there a protection of reputation clause in the current superintendent contract? By that I mean, if the superintendent harms, disparages, or demeans the school or its employees, are there consequences? If not, why not? If so, does she get a written warning? Will it go into her personnel file? Can she be terminated? I know that the superintendent has written up other employees for this exact same thing. Shouldn't she be treated the same? Also, I understand 6 of the 9 principals at WWS are no longer in their positions. Is removal of a principal brought before the school board, or is it solely at the superintendent's will to reassign and terminate? The retention rate of teachers and principals has been something that WWS has been proud of in the past. So my second question is, are retention rates part of her performance review? Much of the community shares a distrust with the superintendent. So it leads us to wonder how she was hired. Can you tell me who was involved in hiring her? Was it only the school board, or were principals, teachers, and parents involved? This is an important decision. It would seem like it would be hard for just one group to make that decision. Finally, it's nonsensical to believe anything other than Dr. McGuire's reassignment was because Sherry Great could not get along with Stacy. Since such a large part of the community has worked with Dr. McGuire, we know that the problem does not lie with her. It seems the superintendent couldn't motivate or lead, so she pettily risked the education of the community's children to ingratiate herself. The community is frightened that our highest-ranking school official does not have the children's welfare as her top priority. We are frightened that she can threaten her employees and create a culture of fear where our children go to school. I ask the school board, please consider this public outcry.
Eric Schaefer.
I had 2 boys go through the system, K through 12. Both boys Both boys went on to pretty highly thought of universities, and when they're there, they did well. Part of that is because of several teachers they had, coaches, and Stacy McGuire, because she put those pieces into place. I find it amazing, mind-boggling, that we got rid of the principal, basically on a personnel conflict. The superintendent couldn't play with the principal in the same sandbox. How petty. What a mess. What a mess 3 of you have allowed. I am so glad I have no more kids going through the school system. But as a taxpayer, I'd like to talk about focus on the referendum renewal of 2016 and how the district has changed under the current superintendent. In 2018, 65 instructional assistants were let go and reassigned. You know, the people who deal directly with the student. However, the size of the central office is a very different story. It is ballooned. Although enrollment at the elementary level has remained relatively flat, we've gone from 3 half-time elementary assistant principals to 6 full-time assistant principals. Partly designed to allow the principals to have more contact and coaching with the teaching staff, which is a good idea. But then the superintendent's good friend from DeKalb was hired as director of elementary curriculum. What happens? More instructional coaches to every school. Not only was another central office position added, but we went from 1 coach to 9 coaches. If our teachers need so much coaching on how to teach, why are they teachers in the first place? But there's more, buckle up here. We have a new director of operations and a financial specialist, previously done by 1 person. We now have an SEL coordinator, 2 new deans, a parents university coordinator, a director of secondary curriculum, until last week, 2 PR specialists. They resigned, which seems to be a trend. And most recently, the director of alternative learning. This is the new position fabricated for the banished high school principal. Do we need these positions? Some of them? Sure. Do we need all of them? No way. All these positions were created after the referendum, the renewal referendum in November 16. That was not the intent of the referendum. This is not how the referendum was stated. Human focus was to add teachers as we grew, maintain classroom size, and keep a focus on the student. This is not what has happened. Over 20 new administrative positions, with salaries, stipends, benefits, training, conferences, surely $2 million a year, or $2 million annually. Load at the top and layers of middle management. That's a winning business model. Is there any oversight? Is there any accountability? Maybe not from anybody at the long table, but there will be in November.
Erica Strong.
I wanted to switch gears a little bit and talk about executive sessions. I've been a member of the Washington Township Board now for 19 months, which is the same amount of time that Bill and Rebecca have been on this school board. In the 19 months that I've been on the Westfield Washington Board, we've had 1 executive session, and that was due to pending litigation. Since January 2020, since I can't go back any farther on the website, the school board has had approximately 10 executive sessions. In an article from the American Association of School Administrators, which I'll forward to all the board members, the author warns that getting into the habit of scheduling an executive session before each school board meeting, that was supposed to be one tonight, thankfully it was canceled, is a red flag. And executive sessions are often incorrectly used to decide what's going to be said in a meeting, who's going to say it, possibly even talk about votes, or to discuss an agenda that could be threatened, or an agenda item that could be threatened. Yesterday, I spoke to Indiana Public Access Counselor Luke Britt, And he confirmed that the need for executive sessions should be exercised judiciously and infrequently. He also told me a story about the Fort Wayne City Council. Bill, you're from Fort Wayne, right? Yep. All right, Fort Wayne City Council. This is the second largest municipality in our state. So earlier this spring, the Fort Wayne City Council reached out to Luke Britt, the public access counselor, and said, we need your help. We need to have an executive session, and it's been 25 years or possibly longer since we've had an executive session. They couldn't remember any farther back because that's as long as their attorney had been there. Maybe more than 25 years, like I said, their attorney didn't know. If the second largest municipality in our state can go that long without holding an executive session, surely our school board can start doing more business in the public. And Rebecca, thank you for making some comments. If you guys don't know, executive sessions are closed meetings, and you never get to find out what happens in them. I have no problem with that, but it seems like we're doing them quite often with the school board. And so my request is start having conversation in public, not behind closed doors, even talking to each other on the phone. Bring it to the meetings and tell us what's going on. Again, Rebecca, I appreciate you speaking up tonight, and I would just request that you start doing more business in public and less executive sessions. Thank you.
Craig Wood.
Greg Wood, I live on 191st Street. Grand Park is my backyard. Some of you know that, get the general idea. I have a reputation for asking questions and accountability. I will do so tonight. Yes, I would like to ask one-on-one all 5 members of the school board, Dr. Gray and Dr. McGuire, to get that whole perspective. Unfortunately, I know I can't do that because there are constraints, and I respect those constraints, having served on the Board of Zoning Appeals that has some similar constraints about talking with the public. My concern is, and I understand the passion that is going around the community, my concern is there going to be a polarization of both the community and the school system, rightfully or wrongfully done? I'm hearing about Remember in November. I'm hearing some alluding that there's basically a 3-2 rubber stamp favoring what Dr. Gray offers. Remember in November, that concerns me. Will there be a 3-2 or 4-1 or 5-0 rubber stamp that disagrees with Dr. Gray? I would ask you, a rubber stamp has no purpose on a board, school board or otherwise. Doesn't make any difference if it's pro or con. The board is charged to be objective and unbiased. Is that going to happen in November? I'm asking. I don't have that answer yet. I had a gut feeling from the previous election that that's another story. But I'm asking, is that going to be what's going to happen? I've heard pretty much a vilification of Superintendent Dr. Gray. I'm a little surprised I haven't seen the burning of effigy yet. But I can see it happening. I would ask this of the public. How many of you could manage a multi-million-dollar budget, deal with an expanding student population, plan the campus and buildings that will take care of that exploding population, and throw in a global pandemic on top of it. How many of you would change and take her job, walk in her shoes, sit in her desk for a month? I know I don't have those skill sets. I wouldn't even begin to try. Would you? She's not perfect. I understand that. None of us are. She's probably made some mistakes along the way. Most of us have made mistakes in our lifetime. But there's an accountability. And that accountability is a two-way street. From them and us. I think we can do better. Both ways. Thank you.
Natalie Henry. I'm sorry, what?
Hello, my name is Natalie, and I'm a longtime Westfield resident and a 2020 WHS grad. I stand before you today as a concerned citizen questioning the long-time ethical conduct of our school board members and our superintendent, Sherry Gray. On June 15th, I attempted to contact the aforementioned people regarding my concerns, and in 1 month, I only managed to receive one response from Bill Anderson. After scouring the district website through the school board documents, I've encountered several policies that led me to doubt the previous actions of the board. I repeat, I stand here as a citizen seeking transparent answers, not a disgruntled student trying to change something I cannot do. I ask the following questions. As seen in Policy 2000-15, the accepting or ratification of employee contracts is deemed the policy of the board, and Policy 2000-19 states that these policies must see public discussion. Why do certain policies lack the public discussions and second readings as your policies and exercise of home power state? Why have these meetings lacked the review and consideration of all aspects, consequences, and results of proposed policies as directed by the exercise of home powers? While I understand personnel reports may not be discussed publicly for legal reasons, that should still be stated clearly when moving to vote on a proposal. That way community members may understand why an employment decision was not brought to public attention. Where have the no comments been? It's better to say no comment than to not address the issue at all. You have lapsed into a routine of complacency because we, as a community, failed to challenge you when the rules were bent. Ignorance of the law, ignorance of the rules is not an excuse for your behavior. If we do not open up an honest discussion on the lax ethical conduct of this board, we have only ourselves to blame when the next questionable decision is made. Thank you for your time.
John Lord.
We recently moved here a little over a year and a half ago, and my subject is not about what is going on, but it's Stacy Water. Although I do feel the same as all of you. I just had a high schooler that graduated and loved her. My subject is about what we're going to do moving into the school year. I'm going to preface by saying I'm a medical laboratory scientist. Okay? So I test COVID for all of our community. So with that, I do a lot of research and I deal with facts and data. When I deal with facts and data, I wonder why we want to put our kids in a face mask. CDC put out their study on May 5th, 2020, that stated that a 72-year study to fight pandemics, viral pandemics, non-pharmaceutical ways to do it, 72 years, from 1946 to 2018. There's 4 different ways to fight pandemics that they talked about and did studies on for these 72 years. Face masks was one of the things they did studies on. And that study shows that it is zero in helping stop the spread. And you guys all want to know why? That's because the virus is too small to be stopped by a mask. It is only 5 times larger than O2. So we're going to put kids in masks that will not wear them, that will get punished in school for not wearing them. They will constantly fidget and touch their face and touch their face. They will build up bacteria within the mask, because bacteria is over 100 times larger than virus and will be stopped by the mask. Because they'll be wearing it for over 6 hours in a day. On top of that, they may end up with hypercapnia. They may get some CO2 toxicity. What that will do to them is make them lose concentration. That can give them headaches. There are already individuals throughout this nation that are having health issues from wearing masks too long. There are facts, there are studies. I encourage all of you to please look at this. It is all over. Do not listen to the news. Look at the facts. Look at the data. It will tell you what can harm your child. This will not harm your child by not wearing a mask. Wearing a mask will harm your child. Thank you.
So, Sutan? Maybe she left. Rebecca Fanter?
Thank you all for your time. I'm here to address some points about the search for our new high school principal. I wonder how we can possibly get a qualified high school principal this close to the start of the school year. Are we really going to find the best leader for our award-winning high school in a month? This decision of selecting a new high school principal will affect our children for years to come, and they deserve the best candidate we can find, not the best candidate we can get in a month before school starts. Many schools start before ours. Has consideration been given to what kind of principal would walk out on their school after school has started? Or someone who would resign right before it starts? Why would we want someone who is willing to do that? If we get someone from our own district, then we're further disrupting our own students during an already chaotic time. I echo a sentiment that's been shared here earlier when I say I teach my children that it is okay to admit when you have made a mistake. Can you admit that you made a mistake, that when you decided it was a good idea to reassign Dr. Stacy McGuire? You all have the power to change that decision and completely focus on safely starting school again in a month. If you are unwilling to do that, we ask that you please maintain the current interim principals at Westfield High School and take the necessary time to conduct a legitimate search for a new principal. Please do this as it is in the best interest of our children. Thank you.
Tabitha Benson. Okay. It's Gabby. Logan.
Hi, my name is Gabby Logan, and before I start, I want to thank Dr. Gray and the school board for giving me the opportunity to speak on such a important subject. Okay, so like I said, my name is Gabby Logan, and I'll be a senior at Westfield High School. The world is very uncertain right now with COVID and social unrest happening today. Our school should be a place where we can go and feel safe. Walking into the building, having Dr. McGuire there, gives us all a feeling of comfort, knowing that our school and our lives are in the hands of a strong leader. During e-learning, we received constant support from Dr. McGuire, and with so many feelings of nervousness during that time, she would always make sure that we felt loved and cared for. Going into my senior year without that feeling of comfort is terrifying. And I've been going to WHS for almost 4 years now. It's hard to explain, but my freshman year, I just knew that Dr. McGuire had my back, and it breaks my heart to know that the freshmen won't get to feel what it feels like to have Dr. McGuire by your side. And it breaks my heart to know that my niece and my nephews will never understand what it would be like to have a high school principal as amazing as Dr. McGuire. She made it her goal to make sure that every student had a place. When my cheer coach was dying of cancer, Dr. McGuire was a constant supporter to our team. After our coach's passing, she continued to go out of her way to honor her and her legacy while still supporting us with grieving processes. For the past 2 years, I have been an anchor and editor of the high school broadcast news, Round TV. And no matter the circumstance, Dr. McGuire made a special effort to tell me that she was not only proud of me, but the program as a whole. The actions that I just described were not exclusive to one group of kids. She wants us to all experience that feeling of love. We were her children. Every single person in this room is here because we respect and we love Stacey Mack in the same way that she respects and loves us. The reassignment of Dr. McGuire has had a serious impact on me as well as many other kids. Therefore, I have a few questions. Did you consider the effect your decision will have on WHS students and staff? Did you even ask high school students about the environment before you made this change? Because I can stand by the fact that 4,780 students that signed the petition to keep Dr. McGuire as principal of WHS would applaud Stacey Mack for all she's done. And to Rebecca Ogle and Bill Anderson, me and almost 5,000 others, thank you for voting to keep Dr. McGuire.
Mike Fields.
Good evening, and I apologize for the crowd, but I'm not here to talk about the principal, although there's been a lot of discussion about that. But I want to focus instead on essentially my kids. See, I'm the father of a fifth
Speak
grader.
into the mic, please.
I'm the father of a fifth grader and a seventh grader. And this year's been a year of tremendous change for all of us as we deal with this pandemic. But it's not been the only time I've ever done this. My daughter, when this first happened, I sat down and said, hey, we're going to do these things. And she asked my father about it. My father's a doctor. And if you've never heard of polio season, folks, Google that. Up until 1955, every year, it was just like what we're going through right now. And as I started studying that, and started learning that, I started thinking about where my children are. We've gone through this tremendous amount of e-learning this year. And how effective has the e-learning been? Is there been a study for that? Because I'll tell you what, it's pretty darn efficient. 3 days, 4 hours a day. We managed to get through all the educational requirements for my kids. And we finished, what, 3 weeks early? Pretty impressive. Was that effective? The reason I'm asking is because this fall, my kids are both at a good time for both educational development and social development. Face-to-face learning, and I'm grateful to hear that you're committed to face-to-face learning. I'm also grateful that you guys have taken a lot of steps and outlined what you want to do to help keep them safe. I'm very concerned about how hair trigger is going to be if someone has a headache, someone has a sore throat, they come in with a cough. Are we closing the school? Are we closing a classroom? There's 25 kids in there. How often are we going to close that down? How often will my wife have to take time off from work? Can she maintain her job? If she has to take time off to work to stay home and me train my kids. So I would just ask to be very cautious about triggering that. The impact you have through the whole community, the impact you have for my children, when you're teaching them about fear about all this, is tremendous. So please take that into consideration as you consider how you're going to respond to this particular event. Thank you.
Sydney Clifford.
All right, my name is Sydney Clifford, and I'm a recent graduate of Westfield, and I think all of us graduates think that this is not how we started a year ago, but we're here right now. And I just wanted to give a quick perspective from a student on the removal of Dr. McGuire. Her hair was huge, oh my God. Her hair was big, her heels were high, and her smile was wide. This was my first impression of Dr. McGuire when I shadowed Westfield my 8th grade year. Ever since 8th grade, my first impression of Dr. McGuire grew more into an odd appreciation for a woman who truly has pride and care for each and every one of her students. Dr. McGuire's schedule was packed every weekend because she made it to every single student event. She referred to the WHS student body not as her students, but as her kids. As principal, she understood us. As a principal, she made us the priority. Most importantly, as a principal, she listened to us. 3 years ago to this day, my uncle took his own life. And throughout the rest of that summer, I was distraught. I had one of the biggest reality checks of my life, and my mental health was in disarray. But when I went through those doors at WHS my sophomore year, I had a principal who told me that I had worth and that she loved me. This was one of the turning points in that story. I knew that if the leader of my school was there for me, then all the staff and faculty were too, even during that difficult time. Dr. McGuire has a pulse on her students. Dr. McGuire understands that change is hard, and that the entire high school experience is about change. Right now, our country is in disarray. Racial tension is at an all-time high. A pandemic looms ahead of the foreseeable future. For high school, these moments of change are taking a drastic toll on our mental health. So why are we having to argue about another drastic change in a place they call home? Why do we have to fight for a woman who understands her students, her kids, the most? School board, I urge you to please reconsider your decision and reinstate Dr. McGuire as principal of WHS. She understands her students, and she will know how to take care of her students, most especially in this uncertain time. Thank you.
April Fawcett.
Hi, I wanted to talk about the reopening guidelines that we've been discussing. We now know that there is a 0.26% overall death rate from COVID. and that is close to 0% for everyone under age 45. We also know that 85% of us won't even know we have the virus because our symptoms will be so mild. COVID presents a far lower risk to kids than the flu risk that we accept every year. According to studies done in France, Australia, the Netherlands, Iceland, and Switzerland, it's very rare that kids spread the virus. Kids 18 and under have a very low virus load, and therefore they are weak carriers and poor transmitters. And so it's not necessary to social distance and to wear masks. Over the past couple of days, schools such as the Yorktown district here in Indiana, and even the Orange County district in California, have declared that they are not mandating masks. The use of masks by kids is unnatural and difficult for our teachers to enforce. Prolonged use contributes to unhealthy moisture in the mask and the increased frequency of kids touching their faces and adjusting their masks, which increases contamination of their hands and their masks, trapping germs near their mouth and nose, which will increase infection. Masks obscure facial features, impeding healthy social interaction, and we should be very concerned about increased anxiety and depression, which is already at an all-time high. We know that masks and social distancing, as well as distance learning, inhibit academic and social and emotional learning and well-being. I'm told that dentists and doctors and nurses wear masks all day and they have no ill effects. Yet the ones I do know who do wear them all day, because not all of them do, they all say that they feel dizzy and lightheaded after several hours and come home with headaches on a daily basis. Research shows it's not just pressure from straps, but also low blood oxygen levels. I've seen multiple tests confirming that carbon dioxide levels are high inside the mask and oxygen levels are too low. This is important because a fall in oxygen levels is associated with an impairment in immunity, the very thing we're trying to protect. This data indicates that masks would increase infections. In addition, masks present an additional risk to kids and staff with asthma and other lung issues, anemia, and heart issues, amongst others. Are you willing to take that risk with our children? Last Wednesday, I emailed the district asking for scientific studies that prove it's safe for our kids to wear masks 6+ hours a day. Assuming that this decision would not be made and mandated for the entire student body without extensive research and proof that it's 100% safe for our kids. I have yet to hear back, which suggests to me that we have zero proof that wearing masks all day is safe for our kids and will not cause harm to their health and their developing brains. Our children deserve better than to be treated as a science experiment. Thank you.
Benjamin Garcia.
You don't need it. You're distanced.
Hi everyone, my name is Benjamin Garcia. Could I just get an indication from the school board members and the superintendent that you can see me and hear me? Okay, great. Good evening to the members of the school board and the superintendent. I'm here as a concerned resident of Westfield and a former student of our schools. At this moment, dismantling a racist system, including racism in our education, as well as maintaining the safety of our students during the pandemic, takes precedence over all issues. But these issues must be met with leadership that can provide love, passion, and stability, as well as understanding and action. And that's why I'm here today to talk about the reassignment of Dr. McGuire as principal of Westfield High School. Now, I recognize that there are some limits to personnel matters that you can't discuss. The law, however, does not limit us from providing you with our feedback and our sincere thoughts, nor does it limit you from considering or acting on our behalf, nor does it limit the discussion of the process in which decisions like these are made. Now, I don't know what your motivations were for this decision, and I probably never will due to confidentiality, So I'll take you at your highest ground with the best of intentions and focus on the effects of your actions that are clearly measurable and visible today. What we hold to be true is this. Dr. McGuire was a beloved and necessary part of Westfield High School. When she was reappointed, the result was shock and confusion by community members, students, and teachers alike. The result was a petition with almost 5,000 signatures demanding that she be reinstated. The result was 2 rallies held to express our pain, our anger, and to fight on her behalf. On balance, the community wants her back, and at this moment you must make a choice where you can either listen to us or you can choose to dismiss our concerns. And ultimately, it was confirmed to me by several of you that it is legally possible for that decision to be reversed and for her to be reinstated instead. Now, multiple speakers today have focused on students as a major point of concern, and absolutely that's true. But I want to also talk about teachers and the educators who provided us with an education these last 13 years, and the 4 years of the high school. Frankly put, your employees and your colleagues, your teachers, are distraught at this decision. They are asking for their leader back, and your students are also asking for a loving principal back. They and the rest of the community want to walk into a school with a leader who promoted unity, care, and stability. Ultimately, just listening to some of the speeches today, it is incredibly distressing to me that the very teachers who taught me to use my voice and allowed me to use my voice right now aren't able to express their concerns and their fight today. Truly value our teachers the way that they say they do. We're already putting them back into a very dangerous situation of pandemic with high stress levels. The last thing they need is to have their leader removed from them. Doing an action like that is simply disrespect to all of our educators and all of our teachers and showing them that we don't really care about how they are. If there is nothing else that you can take away from this comment, it's that we as a country, as a society, and just as a community in Westfield have lost faith in our institutions, to the point where we're almost numb to it. Now, if this decision isn't reversed, the damage and the pain that it's already caused is going to be irreparable, and the community is not going to heal. Dr. McGuire is an essential part of that healing. So as you search for a new principal, I ask you to stay true to your word and listen when we say that we want Dr. McGuire back. Thank you.
Dean Dixon.
I will start out by telling you that I fight in court every day for children and their best interests, and that's why I'm here today. What has happened to Westfield High School by removing Dr. McGuire? Superintendent Gray has single-handedly destabilized a nationally recognized high school program, removed a leader who has developed academic excellence in the highest graduation rate in the state, empowered a superintendent who hails from a struggling school district in a small community. You have removed a visible, respected, and loved school leader that engages the students in education and fuels their desire to learn. Westfield High School is the house that Dr. McGuire built. Please, for the love of your students, for the love of your community, reinstate Stacy Mack. Remove Dr. Britt.
Okay, that's all the comments that we have this evening. Our next school board meeting will be August 18th, right here at Washington Woods at 7 p.m. I will entertain a motion to adjourn. I will second that.